Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Tuesday. Hi, hello. How the heck are you? Hope you're having an outstanding afternoon, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us here on 580 Sports Talk, whether you're listening on 580 WYBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WYBW.com, or if you're checking out our video stream on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. However you are consuming the program, we're glad you've chosen to spend some of your Tuesday afternoon with us. We are with you until 6 o'clock tonight. And if you're a baseball fan, I hope you're hungry for nothing, because there is no Royals baseball tonight. There is inclement weather in the greater St. Louis area, and the Cardinals were proactive in postponing tonight's game. It was a 6:45 scheduled first pitch. They postponed the game more than 6 hours ahead of that scheduled first pitch. So what will happen instead is there will be a split doubleheader tomorrow in the I-70 series between the Royals and the Cardinals. The first game will take place at 12:45. We will have pregame coverage here on 580 WIBW on the Royals Baseball Network at noon. First pitch at 12:45. At the conclusion of game one of the split doubleheader, 580 Sports Talk until 6 o'clock. Then more pregame coverage. Then game two of the split doubleheader at the previously scheduled 6:45 start time. Get it? Got it? Good. There'll be a test later. I'm Dan Lucero. The dapper Brendan Wrzinski is across from me. Trent Kraxner in Trenton Cam on the video is across the glass. Our producer engineer, Spencer Dupuis, will be along later on today's show. Glad to be with you on day one of Big 12 Media Days. And once again, glad to be with you in a place where it is not hell degrees. Very glad, frankly, that we are in a part of the country where it does not get to 120 degrees. At least it hasn't yet. Yes. Give it some time. Climate change is real. But we are not in Las Vegas today for Big 12 Media Days, but that does not mean we are not going to bring you plenty of Big 12 football content today. Brett Yormark, conference commissioner, led off today's festivities of the two-day event with some lengthy opening remarks and then a lengthy Q&A. We have broken that up for you, and we're going to bring you the good stuff from Brett Yormark. We will bring you his opening remarks at the bottom of this hour, and the Q&A session, at least the greatest hits of the Q&A session, at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. So you will hear plenty from the commissioner of the Big 12, and we think that you will find it interesting, some of the initiatives that the Big 12 has talked about starting this year and moving forward, and naturally some of the optimism that Brett Yormark shares about where this conference stands. He repeatedly referred to the Big 12 as one of the top 3 conferences in America. Everybody else might be dealing in a power 2. In Brett Yormark's office, that'll get you thrown out.
And he is not going to rest until this is the number 1 conference in America. Let's also make sure that that's clear. I appreciate the gumption. I appreciate the desire to be bold and to stay on the cutting edge. I don't always think those ideas are good ideas, but I do think that it's better than the alternative. What's the phrase that Tim Fitzgerald, who we'll talk to tomorrow, our K-State insider, what is the phrase he always used to describe Bob Bowlesby? Always used to call him a good peacetime commissioner.
Yes.
He's also, of course, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today.
That was how I referred to him.
But Brett Yormark is different in the sense that he's always trying something new. Bob Bowlesby was more than content to just let everybody else act first and then to say, well, maybe now we should consider making some changes, playing games on different days, doing something different with our media contracts, et cetera, et cetera. Brett Yormark is saying, no, we're going to go play in Mexico at 3:18 p.m. local time on a Wednesday. We're going to play football there, and that's what we're going to do.
New TV windows. Kick off a game at 3 o'clock? You betcha.
How much is the payout from the networks? Texas with a $sign in front of it. Okay. Like that, but that's what he's doing, and what he, again, I think illustrated today he wants to do. Is it always going to work out? No, I still don't feel like Big 12 Mexico is a very smart idea, to be honest with you. Like, I don't see the value he sees in it, but would you rather be bold and swing and miss, or would you rather just sit there and do nothing? I would rather be in the first camp.
So if I may continue the wrestling
real quick, Mark on YouTube, much more blunt than I was.
Light him up, Mark.
Bob Bowlesby was an idiot.
Bob Bowlesby almost got the Big 12 killed. That's all I'm going to say.
True.
Bob Bowlesby almost got the Big 12 killed.
Listen, after decades of Bob Bowlesby and Dan Beebe, I'm not going to complain at all about Brett Yormark.
No, I miss fake Dan Beebe.
That was the golden age of burner Twitter accounts.
Elite Twitter
fake Dan Beebe, fake Joe Dooley.
If I can continue the tortured 90s wrestling analogies here,
Always.
Bob Bowlesby was really not the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. That was something that we called him as a joke. But I do not say this jokingly. If I can borrow another 90s wrestler nickname, Brett Yormark is the innovator of offense. Brett Yormark is trying to be a move ahead of every other conference commissioner and try to do things that separate the Big 12 from anyone else. Like the SEC is not considering the internationalization of its brand. Although, I mean, let's be honest, you've been to some of those cities in SEC country. It's like they speak a foreign language in some of those towns in like Mississippi and Alabama. But that's not the same as Big 12 Mexico. They are looking to be different, defining the difference, the point of difference. We talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show, is that was something that Brett Yormark stressed the importance of from day one, before he even had the job, at his first Big 12 Media Days in 2022. Define the point of difference for the Big 12 Conference. And Brett Yormark is going to take as many swings as possible at what that point of difference is going to be and how to remain relevant to the point where maybe one day we do talk about the Big Three conferences in America when it comes to college athletics. So we're going to hear plenty from Brett Yormark today. He had a lot to say. A lot of it was interesting. So we're going to play that audio again. Bottom of the 2 o'clock hour, you'll hear his opening statement. Bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, you'll hear his question and answer session with the media. Chris Klieman also spoke to the media today, the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. Naturally, like everybody who shows up to Big 12 Media Days, lots of optimism, lots of excitement. Everybody thinks their team's going 12-0 and going to win the conference and go to the college football playoff. But Chris Klieman had plenty to say today, took some interesting questions, and we're going to hear that press conference at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. So if you want to hear from the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, we'll hear from him at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, the start of today's third hour of the show. We'll also talk Jayhawks with Michael Swain of Fog.net, Jayhawk Weekly, coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Michael will be gracious enough to step away from the slot machines or the Baccarat table. Do you not play Baccarat? I do not.
No, I do not. No. When I was in Vegas last month, I mean, we were only there for 36 hours, played some roulette, played the, what was it? The Fortune Cup. A lot of horse racing when I was in Vegas at the Bellagio.
There you go.
A lot of Fortune Cup. I don't know what Michael's game would be. He doesn't strike me as a slots guy, though.
Yeah, I don't think he's just going to sit and pull the lever all day.
No. I can't see that one.
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
He might be a roulette guy. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe a little craps.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get Michael Swain's thoughts. He's set to join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk for our weekly bull session with Michael Swain of Fog.net. We call it Jayhawk Weekly. We'll also, in the spirit of the start of Big 12 Media Days, we'll talk about the top storylines for the league this year. Take a look at what I thought were some interesting thoughts from a newcomer to the conference, a view from the black and gold Boulder perspective of one of the 4 newcomers to the conference this year. And we'll make officially our Big 12 football predictions. Who's going to play for the conference title? Who are going to be the players of the year and the coach of the year? Who will be the biggest surprise and the biggest disappointment? We're going to predict those things later on here on the show. Plus, all of the things you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk, including Random Question Tuesday, another round of What is Wrong with You, our 580 Sports headlines, top of the 5 o'clock hour, and so much more. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of the discussion here on 580 Sports Talk. If you are watching the show on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk is a YouTube channel. Dial in, subscribe if you haven't yet. We love it when you subscribe to the YouTube channel, but you can interact in the live YouTube chat with some of our great listeners and friends and interact with us as you do so in the YouTube live comments. You can also, if you're watching on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk or on Facebook at WIBW News, send in comments that way, and we can see those and interact with you if you send in your comments in that fashion. Of course, if you're holding your phone, you want to send us a text, you can do that on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That's 785-272-9429. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open for business, and we look forward to hearing from you folks throughout the show today. Big 12 Media Days, the unofficial start of football season. We may not be in Vegas, but the hype doesn't have to stay in Vegas.
May I start this today complaining? May I complain? I saw someone the other day, I don't even remember what the original topic was, but someone I follow on Twitter, a Michigan fan, mind you, who probably knows a thing or two about defense, given what Michigan football has looked like the last few years. But it was something about the Big 12 and being, the next best conference. It was something like that. And he made some crack about, the Big 12 where they don't play any defense, where every score is 65-58. I think it is very funny when people just admit they don't watch football and they just are willing to come out with a take that just indicates, yeah, I don't watch football.
Yeah,
that's not something I'm interested in.
I haven't paid close enough attention, and I don't know anything new about the Big 12 conference. I haven't paid attention since Baker Mayfield was around.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. Including all the teams in the new SEC, how many top 30 defenses, scoring defenses, do you think the SEC had last year?
Top 30 scoring defenses?
Top 30 scoring defenses, including the newcomers, Texas and Oklahoma.
4, maybe 5.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Texas. Alabama. And this surprised me a little bit. Tennessee. At 4.
Okay.
That's the mean, tough, grizzly SEC defense. You Plains boys, you can't keep up with that. You know how many the Big 12 had? 3. Utah was the top 20 defense. K-State ranked 27th, and Arizona was 30th. So we're talking about almost an equivalent number of elite scoring defenses from a year ago. That frustrates me. And we're going to get to the quarterbacks here, specifically in our state, in a moment. But if you stopped watching college football in 2016, you probably do think that every game is still a Mayfield versus Mahomes fight. You probably do think Will Grier is still throwing the ball 64 times a game or whatever it was for West Virginia. This is a completely different league, and I think that is something else that the league should steer into as we talk about perception, is this ain't arena football anymore. This is not, Joe Tiller's favorite conference, basketball on grass. Like, this is real ball now. But this is more than just the gimmick conference that it felt like almost the better part of a full decade ago. And I think that is something that we should indicate here and point out here as we talk about this new season of college football. That's not what the Big 12 is. Like, look at the preseason rankings. Utah, not that kind of team. Kansas State, if Avery Johnson is great, immediately they could be that kind of team. The odds are that's probably not going to be the case this year. Most of these teams aren't like that. Honestly, the most high-flying teams in the conference are Kansas and Arizona, which is bizarre. And they're both probably going to be pretty good this year. But I wanted to start by saying, as we talk about the grand perception of what the Big 12 is, don't conflate what it was with what it is now. And I think that's something this conference should really steer into.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to start as we look at like the state of the Big 12 on the field. This once high-flying, high-scoring league is now much more of a smash-mouth, running back forward league. When you think of the stars in this league, you think of the tailbacks. You think of Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. You think of Devin Neal at Kansas, Taj Brooks at Texas Tech, DJ Giddens at Kansas State, RJ Harvey and Penny Boone at UCF. They're the only team in the country. I mentioned this yesterday. The only team in the country with 2 guys who rushed for over 1,000 yards coming back.
If UCF isn't running legitimate triple option stuff this year, and I think Gus Malzahn will, for what it's worth, because, I mean, come on, we've all seen Gus Malzahn coach before.
Right.
We saw those teams that were competing for national championships down at Auburn. Like, that's the kind of stuff he'd love to run. I'm sure he misses Nick Marshall these days. But, like, if you're not using those guys, you are wasting your time because everyone's got one, which is going to lead to a lot of games that are probably going to be fairly low scoring and fairly, muddy, gross, grimy kind of games. It's going to look a little Big Ten probably at times this year.
Even some of the teams that maybe don't project as high on the list of finishers this year, you're not outside of your top 3 or your top 4, have elite backs. I mentioned Brooks at Texas Tech, Abu Sama at Iowa State. Ask any K-State defender how good he has the chance to be. He's
still running.
Yes, he's still dashing through the snow on his one-horse open sleigh that night. Cameron Scatabo at Arizona State's a really good running back.
Yeah,
like, that team stinks, and get behind and they have to throw it a ton. But when they can run it, Scadabo's good.
You're really good player.
Richard Reese at Baylor's a really good player. Like, there are so many talented running backs in this conference. And we know that there are good quarterbacks too. And we'll talk about some of them in just a bit. But this is a conference that I wouldn't quite call it throwback football because nobody's running the I, right? Like, nobody's lining up in the Maryland I. Nobody's running like the T formation.
God, I wish though.
Strong sets. Like 2 or 3 teams might employ a fullback. Like, we're not taking it that far back, but
we could though.
Yeah.
Seriously. On a serious note though, how many teams don't just have a good running back or a really good running back? We even had a text on the Top City Metal Supply text line mentioning, hey, don't forget Dylan Edwards at K-State. How many of these teams have multiple legit backs? Both KU and K-State do. Huh? UCF does. Oklahoma State's always got a deep running back room. Obviously, Ollie Gordon's at the top of the list.
Arizona State does.
Arizona State does. All these teams have multiple backs that are competent and strong. And that kind of makes me wish that someone would run the Maryland I. I kind of wish we would bring that back.
Not a lot of fullbacks running around these days, unfortunately. That's the
tragically
that's the issue. We've gotten rid of the fullback, unfortunately.
I can't believe the Big 12.
Utah, where the quarterback could be the fullback.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed that Iowa State is carrying a true fullback and that the Big 12 actually honored him preseason.
Steve-O Klotz.
Yeah. Wow, they're actually honoring a fullback. All right, I'm here for it. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of that this year. There's no doubt.
So that, I think, stylistically is going to be something that sets Big 12 football apart from maybe some other leagues in the country this year. We did mention the quarterbacks, and I think locally the quarterbacks are the story. Mm-hmm. Kansas and Kansas State both project to be teams in the mix to play for a conference championship by year's end. And how far they go will be, I think, determined more than anything else by what they get from their quarterbacks. Is Avery Johnson ready for prime time as a starter? I'm willing to bet that he is. Mm-hmm. I saw enough from him in cameo duty and in the Pop-Tarts Bowl last year to suggest that this is somebody who can hit the ground running as a sophomore and be one of the best starting quarterbacks in the Big 12. We have seen Jalen Daniels be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. We just haven't seen it for 12 games. Injuries have knocked him out of each of the last 2 seasons. Can he stay on the field? It becomes more imperative that he stay on the field this year for Kansas to be what it wants to be, because there is no Jason Bean holding the clipboard. With respect to Cole Ballard, with respect to Isaiah Marshall, who I think could be the next really good one in Lawrence, they don't have a Jason Bean on deck ready to steady the ship. It's got to be Jalen Daniels. Does that limit his effectiveness as a runner, as a scrambler, where he has to take care of himself a little bit this year? Can he be great within the pocket? Yes, he can be great within the pocket. We've seen him be great within the pocket. So I couldn't be more optimistic about both of those guys. I think that both of them are going to be in the conversation for all conference first team quarterback by the end of the year. Couldn't be higher on them.
I agree. And the 2 questions I have, and they're very similar to what you said. Number 1, can Jalen Daniels stay on the field? I love the potential of Isaiah Marshall. I love what I think he can be at Kansas. I would much rather Jalen Daniels play a full 12 weeks this season, though, or, it'd be 1 week of Cole Ballard, 3 of Isaiah Marshall, whatever. You want Daniels on the field. Can he stay out there? Because if he is out there, if Jalen Daniels plays a full 12 games, I think he might win Conference Player of the Year, Offense Player of the Year. I think that is legitimately possible. Now, as we'll get through in the 3 o'clock hour, I did not pick him to win that award. So that tells you how confident I am in his ability to stay healthy for a full dozen games. But if he is healthy, Kansas can do whatever it wants this season. It can achieve, at least offensively, any goal it has laid out for itself this season. But his body has not earned the benefit of the doubt. That is not fully in his control, obviously, when you're talking about injuries, but that's the number 1 thing for him. For Avery Johnson, for me, it just comes down to, I believe he is good. Not can be. I believe Avery Johnson right now is good. On a binary of good, bad, he is a good quarterback. I think that right now, and that's enough to win K-State 8 or 9 games. As he is, I think, right now, based on what we saw last season in spot duty and in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Can he be great? And do I hope he can be? Obviously. I hope he can be great. I hope he proves all the haters and the doubters wrong. And week 3 against Arizona in a non-conference game, he throws for 350 yards and you go, oh boy, he really is that dude. There's a reason he finished in top 5 at Elite 11. This dude can be the guy for a long time for K-State. If that happens, K-State has a legitimate chance to win the Big 12 and go to the college football playoff. If not, and he's just simply good right now, that makes me feel like the ceiling is a little bit lower for this Kansas State team. Not that it's a bad team, not that it's poorly coached, that they have bad talent, anything like that. I just think he is the number one barometer for, or, the number one measuring stick. How good is he? And I think that is going to carry this K-State team. Contrast that with Daniels. I know Jalen Daniels, when healthy on the field, is legitimately great. I know he's at that level.
We've seen more of it from Daniels than we have from Johnson. Yep. We just haven't seen a full season of it from Daniels.
So can Jalen stay on the field to use that greatness, and can Avery reach it? And if the answer to both is yes, there's a very legitimate chance that those two teams play twice this season.
3 quick-fire questions to wrap up this discussion about some of the big storylines for the Big 12 going into this year. We talked a little bit about this last week, but I wanted to get your take on this. Which newcomer from last year, which of the new teams that entered the league in 2023 takes the biggest stride forward this year?
I think it's got to be UCF. I think that is the easy call there. They added a ton of talent. We've already talked about the running back, Penny Boone, in the transfer portal, and KJ Jefferson at quarterback, which I think is going to be a plus for them. Their QB situation last year when those injuries set in, yikes. So they, I think, are the easy choice. I want BYU to be better, but I hate their quarterback situation.
They don't have the dude at quarterback. That's their biggest problem.
We'll hear about some of their talent influx later, but I just don't know if they have enough of it offensively. Houston's in a rebuild. They're totally rebuilding. I like Willie Fritz. I think 2025, 26, yeah, I'm in on Houston. Not this year, though. And who am I missing then?
Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, Cincinnati's coached by Scott Satterfield.
Right.
So,
it's not them.
No.
They're not the right answer.
Nope.
They did get, it does sound like there might be good news about Dante Corleone, their star defensive tackle,
well,
his
great.
Availability. He was dealing with some blood clots that put his football future in question. Scott Satterfield earlier today said he's working out with the team, and the hope is that he will be able to play this year. Obviously, that would help them a good deal. They added a lot through the portal. They're going to be a very different looking football team. But, they were so bad last year. They were easy money Cincinnati, because betting on them to not cover, betting on their opponent to cover any point spread throughout the year in the Big 12 was the easiest money anybody could have made. That was like your financial advisor should have told you to play Cincinnati games, and it would have had a good return on investment. But
yes,
I'm with you on UCF. I like Gus Malzahn. I like the offensive talent. They might play some of those 55-48 games that everybody thinks the Big 12. Well, some people think the Big 12 still is, but I think they're going to be a really solid team this year. Can more than one team in this league make the playoff, or is this league going to devour itself?
Yes, somebody else can. I don't think we will see that. I want to believe that. I want to believe that we're going to get 2 10-win teams and you're going to get multiple playoff berths. I'm taking the much more conservative, pessimistic view here, playoff-wise. I think only the conference champion is going to get in, because I think these teams are going to eat each other alive. Like, all of the teams at the top, Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Arizona, Kansas, throw UCF in there. I'm just reading the names straight off the top of Phil Steele's projected finish. All of those teams could beat each other. I think the discrepancy in talent from 1 to 7 in that group is minuscule. And I think that is going to harm the Big 12's playoff chances. But it's going to lead to a lot of great football.
So I guess the philosophical question, and the last one in this segment, is it better for the league that the parity that has been promised comes to fruition, and you have a bunch of 9-3 teams at the end of the year just gnawing each other's arms off and ripping off their limbs and beating them with them for 3 months? Or would it be better for the league if 2 teams took the big step forward and you had 2 11-1 teams in Dallas and both ended up in the CFP?
I hate to give you the cop-out answer, but I think it depends who you are. If you're me and you're in it to enjoy the game and the sport and everything, I think it's better to have competition and to not know week to week who is going to win, and to have that legitimate, very small margin for error and very small difference in talent between teams. If you are keeping the books for any given athletic department or the Big 12, you probably want those 2 teams to step ahead of the rest.
You're definitely rooting for 2 in the playoff. No question. You've got a vested interest.
Just as a football fan, though, and as a fan of the style of football played in this conference, I would rather see the parity, honestly. Unless the alternative means that KU makes the playoff, in which case I will take that.
We've got plenty more Big 12 football to talk about on today's program. We're going to hear from Brett Yormark. He spoke earlier today. We'll hear from Chris Klieman in the 4 o'clock hour, his full press conference from earlier today as well. When we come back, a view from a Big 12 newcomer that I thought was interesting, and we'll discuss that next as we continue from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. .235 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting rolling on this Tuesday afternoon. Glad you're with us. I'm fascinated to see the perception of the Big 12 Conference from the newcomers this year, teams that had Power 5 experience that are just now in a different Power 5 league coming over from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. Last year's newcomers were just glad to be in the big leagues for varying degrees of excited to be there and for varying reasons. For BYU, finally the credibility they've been looking for years. Same with Houston, the team that was kind of the odd team out when the Southwest Conference dissolved, and they've been wanting to get to the big leagues for years. Cincinnati and UCF, teams that had been to the college football playoff or claimed a national championship, legitimizing their programs. These now are new programs to the Big 12 that have lived the life and were in a league that suited them. And in the case of Arizona State, a league they were in for decades. and now they're in a new place. So I'm fascinated what that perspective is like. And I have a Denver Post subscription. My family does. I still read the Post. I like to know what's going on back home. Sean Keeler is their main columnist now, and he had an article about Colorado entering the Big 12 Conference. And I thought a couple of these quotes were interesting. Keeler writes, "Here's what the Buffs' new league isn't: the backbiting conference they fled in 2010. No, the Big 12 of 2024 is a brand name with very few of its major brands still in the fold. Here's what it is: stable for now. The trick for CU, specifically when it comes to football, is to take advantage of a league where the Buffs feel, for once, like one of the bigger brands on the marquee." My reaction to that when I first read that was to roll my eyes. Like, Colorado football, come on. They've had one good year since Chris Brown and Bobby Purify ran through Nebraska in 2001. They've been good precisely one other time, since 2001. And who remembers anything about the rise is real? I didn't remember what year it was. Was it 16? Was it 2016, 17? What was the Mike McIntyre year? That
2016. I
There's your
remember
mic.
that very well because I remember watching the Pac-12 championship game at my buddy's house and thinking, oh, yeah, I'm all in on this Colorado team. Love watching. That was Steven Montez, right?
Yeah.
Loved Steven Montez. I thought that was the right year. And then they got their you-know-what shoved in. I mean, it was horrible. And then they put Oklahoma State in the Alamo Bowl, and the same thing happened.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, dear. They might have been a paper tiger.
That's
And they've
it.
been crap since.
That's the one good Colorado football year since 2001. Even you look at their broader history, a nice little decade and a half through the 80s and the 90s, but not a ton of success. But then I thought about it from the Coach Prime prism. Is there a team in the country with more national interest out of the Big 12 Conference, national interest, than Colorado?
Not even close.
No.
Not even close.
They're in that respect, as far as like who's going to get talked about on First Take, whose highlights are going to be on ESPN first, at least till you get to the end of the year, and maybe Kansas State or Kansas or Utah's in the top 10 or whatever. No, man, it is Colorado. They are the top name on the marquee right now. Can they take advantage and strike while the iron is hot? That is going to be what they have to try to do. Arizona's kind of in the same boat football-wise there. Then this quote from Gary Barnett, who used to coach at the University of Colorado. He's their radio analyst now.
Really?
Yeah, he does the games up in the booth with the great Mark Johnson. And he says, "I think it's an easier move for us than it is for USC and UCLA, as well as Oregon and Washington, to go to the Big Ten. We've been here before. Our fans know what to expect, and the league's grown and gotten better. Even though it's lost Texas and Oklahoma, it's still a solid league. I think the way you look at it is, instead of 5 or 6 teams you don't want to play, USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, Washington, Oregon, you don't want to play, well, you don't have to. At least you're not in a hole. It's a pretty good place to start." I think that is underselling. Underselling the really good teams in this league.
I cannot wait for Colorado to come to Arrowhead Stadium to play KU. I am very much looking forward to that game.
I can't wait till they get a load of Kansas State at Folsom Field.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very
good luck, Gary.
Yeah, this is going to be a very humbling year, I think, for Colorado. But that's their perspective.
By the way, let's not forget about Carl Durrell getting them to the Alamo Bowl.
That did happen in the fake year, in the fake COVID year. They were like 4-2.
Nothing faker.
Brett Yormark spoke to the media today to kick off Big 12 Media Days. We'll hear from him next on 580 Sports Talk. Today marked the start of Big 12 Media Days, and Conference Commissioner Brett Yormark opened the proceedings with an opening statement that we present to you here on 580 Sports Talk.
This is our first media day as a 16-team league. There has never been a better time than right now to be part of the Big 12. We are truly a national conference in 10 states, 4 time zones, and all eyes are now on the Big 12 for all the right reasons. And I think it's safe to say we are more relevant now than ever before. Before I look forward, I'd like to recap where we've been for the last 12 months. Since our last football media day, we added the 4 corners and solidified ourselves as one of the top 3 conferences in America. All 4 schools are here with us today, and you will hear from them over the next few days. I'm incredibly excited about what they bring to our league. Last season, Big 12 football fans packed the stadiums. 6 Big 12 teams averaged 100% in home capacity. All schools averaged over 88% capacity. There was incredible late season excitement heading into the Big 12 championship weekend. During our football championship, we introduced the first ever halftime show with Nelly, featuring our school bands. I think that was a great example of how you infuse the old with the new. And our ratings peaked at halftime, and we brought in a more casual audience to experience that halftime show. We had a record-tying 9 teams in bowl games, and we had the second best win percentage. We saw success across Olympic sports and basketball too. Men's basketball had a record high 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. Women's basketball had 7 teams in the tournament, in fact, the most since 2013. 6 NCAA titles were won in sports such as cross country, tennis, and track, to name a few. What led to our success on the field was, of course, our incredible student athletes. And speaking of our student athletes, I have the privilege today of recognizing this year's Bob Bowlesby Award winners, given to student athletes who competed at the highest levels, both on and off the field this past year. Our first winner is Bella Folino from BYU women's soccer team. Let's give her a hand, please. Our second winner is David Carr from Iowa State Wrestling. Bell and David exemplify what it means to be a Big 12 student athlete. And on behalf of the Big 12 community, I'd like to congratulate them both. Off the field, 2024 was a success as well. Our sponsorship business grew by 79%. Our ticket business grew 23%. To start the year, we launched a partnership with Allstate, focused on Big 12 women's sports. We celebrated last year's 4 editions with Big 12 homecoming events with a partnership with Sports Illustrated. And we'll do it again this year with our new editions. We launched the first ever student athlete health and well-being advisory group. We celebrated cultural moments, including a basketball partnership with the Muhammad Ali Estate for Black History Month, supported by ESPN. In addition to moving this year's media day to Las Vegas, we doubled down on Kansas City as the site of our basketball championships for years to come, as well as added women's soccer. We continue to plant our flag in Dallas by extending our football championship at AT&T Stadium and Globe Life Stadium for baseball. We launched a PSL program around our men's basketball championship with our partner Legends, and we teamed up with the NFL to launch Big 12 Pro Day. And we will continue to build our partnership with the NFL as we as a conference continue to innovate and grow. When I took this position, I said I wanted to make sure our conference was on the consciousness of current and future student athletes. In an effort to do so, we need to be more active on social media. We are now the second most followed conference on Twitter and Instagram. And in fact, have had over 250,000 follower growth since December of 2022. On the football front, we will be the deepest conference in America. Every week will matter. I'm going to say that one more time. We will be the deepest conference in America, and every week will matter. We have star power and parity. We boast some of the top players and coaches in the game. November will be incredibly exciting, and we will brand it as a race to the championship. Beyond football, the best conference in basketball got better. Our Olympic sports got stronger, adding 4 programs with an incredible history of excellence. We recently made some changes across our competition team. Our Olympic sports leadership team is one of the best in the country. Scott Draper is now overseeing all Olympic sports, in addition to his role managing football. Dana Scherf will oversee women's basketball. It's the first time we've ever had anyone in that role, and given the growth of the game, we needed to double down. We hired Lisa Peterson from the Pac-12 as our new VP of Olympic sports. Student athlete support continues to be at the forefront of what we do. We have over 70 current and former student athletes participating in this year's Olympic and Paralympic Games, and I plan on being in Paris to support them all. This year, we'll see Big 12 create new opportunities for our student athletes on and off the field. Last week, we launched the Big 12 Beyond Borders program, a cultural studies and leadership program for our student athletes. We will introduce a new governance group to give a greater voice to student athletes. In fact, we took that idea from the Pac-12. The league will assist schools with student athlete storytelling to help build their brands. We will introduce original student athlete storytelling content this year, named 12 for 12. We will also continue to work with the NCAA to protect our student athletes from the negatives that come with sports betting, especially prop bets. Lastly, I am thrilled to announce the launch of the Big 12 Alumni Council. The Big 12 has produced some incredible talent over the years, both on and off the field. This council will provide a former student athlete perspective for the league as we continue to grow. And we will officially announce all the members of the council tomorrow. Clark Williams and I will be chairing this council, and we are thrilled to do so. As I think about our commercial business, our top priority is growth and creating value for our member institutions. I often refer to our league as a mature startup. This means our brand can be younger, more progressive, and innovative compared to some of our peers. Our value creation must be done in a strategic way, and that value creation starts with ESPN and Fox. We are taking an innovative approach, exploring new TV windows, and giving fans more access to our programming. As we build our brand, we will continue to build our business. We will not stumble into this new era following settlement. In fact, we will be aggressive and very proactive. We will push at the NCAA level. In fact, I love what they recently did with on-field logos. I've been very vocal with the NCAA to push for making commercial patches permissible for officials' uniforms, similar to what the NBA has done. I've spoken to our football officials, and they are in favor of it, and I'm optimistic this will happen soon. From a conference perspective, we are exploring all options. 2 years later, I guess you could say, we're still open for business. Naming rights is one, private equity is another. We are looking to expand our PSL program into our football championship game for 2025. We will be infusing more LED signage across our marquee championship events, creating new visible signage and revenue streams for our member institutions. Today, I'd like to announce officially that we are partnering with Microsoft for tablets on the field and in the coaching booth for the upcoming football season. We continue to explore Mexico for the Big 12. We are currently looking into pivoting Big 12 Mexico towards women's soccer or baseball for our official launch. As we continue to enhance our commercial portfolio and our narrative, this morning we launched a conference-branded channel through our new partnership with TuneIn Radio, and I want to thank the executives that are here today from TuneIn. Our football coverage will be greater than ever before, thanks to this new partnership with TuneIn Radio. Additionally, we anticipate announcing a fast channel platform in the near future to also enhance and broaden our narrative. Both give us an opportunity to extend our reach. Obviously, I'm very passionate about where we've been and where we're going. But I'd be remiss if I didn't touch base on the current state of affairs in our industry. We're going through change, but I would rather call it a necessary reset. In 10 years, I think we look back at this period as a positive moment in collegiate athletics history. I live my life by the value equation. Those that create value deserve to be rewarded. I speak for many when I say enhanced student-athlete benefits are a good thing, and that's what the recently announced settlement will provide. I've spent a lot of time with our P4 peers and Charlie Baker developing our path forward. It's been a cooperative effort, and I want to thank them for their partnership. There still is a lot of work to be done. We will work to get clarity on things like Title IX, roster limits, and enforcements. Settlement will require continued conversations on the Hill so we can codify the settlement agreement and gain clarity on student-athlete employment. I've had a lot of conversations with student-athletes about what their desired goals are, and certainly enhanced benefits are at the top of the list, which we are addressing. As we enter this new chapter, I can assure you, Big 12 schools will compete at the highest levels, and they will continue to invest. We've been preparing for this moment for a long time, and as commissioner, I will continue to create value for our members in order for them to be as competitive as possible. This is no time to press pause. We must continue to be bold and aggressive as an industry. The Big 12 will always be ambitious because that's who we are. I know there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people right now, but I will leave you with this. Pressure is a privilege.
That is Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, his opening remarks today from Big 12 Media Day. He also took some questions. There were some good questions, some good follow-ups to a lot of what Yormark had to say. We're going to play that at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. We're going to start the 3 o'clock hour with our Big 12 season predictions for this upcoming football campaign. It's Big 12 Media Days. We're not there, but we're talking all about it here on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Myself, Dan Lucero, Brendan Brzezinski, Trenton Kraxner. We'll be back with you after the local and national news. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday afternoon. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and Trenton Craxner, producer engineer, with you this afternoon. Spencer Dupuis will be along later on. We're glad you're with us here on 580 WIBW, online at 580WIBW.com. Or if you're watching the video, pageant wave for the video. Hello. We're on video. You can watch us. You can see that for your boy today, it is easy being green. I like to coordinate.
You do.
So I like to wear a hat that's like roughly the same color, or at least doesn't clash with the color of the shirt that I wear. So I have a green T-shirt, Denver White Elephants, Negro League baseball team in the 1920s from Denver. And I have a green hat, my Hartford Yard Goats hat. And one time I wore them both together, and somebody asked me if it was St. Patrick's Day, and I've never felt more owned in my life.
No, man, there was one day, this is a few years ago now, I was out in San Diego with she was my fiance at the time. In fact, we weren't even engaged at the time. She was just my girlfriend at the time. And we were visiting her sister and her sister's boyfriend. And I wore a KU shirt, and I always try to pack light. I also just happened to wear a blue KU hat with my blue KU shirt. And I don't remember which member of our party asked, but someone said that I looked like my mom dressed me that day. And I was so offended. I thought, okay, come on, man.
That's tough.
So now I intentionally never coordinate my stuff. It's all sorts of different colors. Look like freaking John Cena sometimes. But
you get the test pattern look going. Yeah. I like to coordinate. I've always been thoughtful about trying to match or at least not clash.
So. I like the Yard Goats hat.
Yeah, I've had this one for a while. It's one of my favorites.
I am sadly not wearing a hat today. I had to dress up for work today, but I was wearing my Trash Pandas hat yesterday. That one's been getting a lot of run for me. I'll wear like 5 in a small rotation for a few weeks, and then I'll actually put them away instead of leaving them on the buffet in our living room. And then it's like, oh, well, now I need to go pick out a new one. Oh, here's my Coastal Carolina hat. I guess that's going to get worn the next 3 days.
No, I respect that.
Yeah, I have a lot. I have to rotate through them.
You can always see what kind of hats. Trenton's got the Valley Falls Dragons lid. Is that the gamer, Trenton? Was that you wear that one in game?
Yes, this is baseball hat. Senior year.
Okay. The game worn.
Yes.
Authenticated. We got the sticker. We got the certificate, everything.
Next time Valley has a equipment sale, like a surplus sale, man, we could find an original Trenton Craxner in here.
No.
So you can always see what kind of fits we're getting off if you watch the video. You can subscribe to the YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Search for us. You see all of our live video, all of our archive video. Be notified when we're about to go live if you subscribe. That's a nice perk. And it doesn't cost you a thing but a click and maybe 5 seconds of your time. So subscribe to the YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. You can also watch us on Facebook if you prefer. WIBW News is the Facebook page. We're on Twitter as well, 580 Sports Talk. You can watch us on the Twitter app. Used to be the Bird app. Now it's the X app, but we still call it Twitter.
I downloaded... Because on the new iPhone operating systems, you can change the icon of your different apps. I downloaded the old Twitter picture and then changed the logo on my phone, so I don't have to look at that ugly X.
See, I have not even I've not updated the app in many months. It still functions as like Twitter used to function. Now, it doesn't really function. Like search feature, nope. Can I view quote tweets? Absolutely not.
I did that for a few weeks, and then I got a new phone, and I thought, oh, I'm sure it'll work. Nope.
Yeah, that might be the thing that keeps me from ever getting a new phone again. I don't ever want to get rid of this phone if it's the last vestige of when Twitter was good before it was wrecked by a man baby who has bad business ideas and has ruined a thing that used to be good. So follow us on Twitter, though. You should still do that if you continue to use the app, whatever version you're using. Follow us at 580 Sports Talk. Still to come on today's show, we're going to hear part 2 of Brett Yormark's press conference from this morning at Big 12 Media Days at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. He took questions. We've selected the best of the best, about 13 and a half minutes of Brett Yormark asking some really good questions from the assembled media. The press did a good job grilling the Big 12 commissioner, so we got some interesting stuff there. We're also going to hear from Chris Klieman at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. The K-State head coach spoke today at the podium. You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to tease you for being extra nice to all the people we know who are there asking questions. Like, we already have guests who come on this show. Like, you don't have to be nice to the reporters.
Well, there were a lot of reporters that we don't have on the show. Maybe one day we might like to. Like, if I could reach out to Barry Trammell someday and say, hey, I was really nice to you.
Have we had Barry on the show before?
I don't know that we have.
No, we've had Garen Emig on the show before.
Yeah,
another former Oklahoma columnist.
Yeah, Garen Emig, I think, is out of the business. Barry Trammell back in the game at the Tulsa World.
Yeah, good for him. There's a story out there about this this publication that Barry Trammell and Garen Emig and Jenny Carlson. We've had Jenny on the show before too, Kansas native, KU grad.
Jenny Carlson there too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
She's got a Substack now.
Yeah, and they all were writing for this publication that was funded by Bob Stoops. That was pretty much a Ponzi scheme, and it's all out there. There's some great reporting about it.
Unfortunately, Trammell took the financial hit for this venture capitalist guy, and it's a really sad and unfortunate story. So, but yeah, Barry Trammell's still kicking. He's back with the Tulsa World and back at Big 12 Media Days. You will hear his voice, in fact, in the course of us playing the Brett Yormark Q&A later on this hour. Still got What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain's going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Lots more to come on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Again, we are with you until 6 o'clock. There will be no Royals baseball tonight. In case you missed it, the Royals and Cardinals have been washed out. They will play a split doubleheader tomorrow. The first game at 12:45, the second game at 6:45. So 580 Sports Talk tomorrow will be with you between Royals games, which is rare. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
But we'll join you at the conclusion of the coverage of Game 1 and take you up until 6 o'clock for the start of coverage of Game 2 of the split doubleheader at Busch Stadium tomorrow. All right, Big 12 prediction time. We are here. We have arrived. It is Big 12 Media Days. It means it's time to get on the record with our Big 12 season predictions. And we'll start with the boldface stuff right off the rip. The top 2 teams in the regular season in the Big 12 Conference will be who?
All right, so
or whom? No, it's who. Who is right?
Yeah, who in that case? I am going to start with Utah. That's my for sure one who gets in. I have had a devil of a time picking a second team, to be honest with you. It's honestly down between the 2 Kansas schools for me. I think Oklahoma State is right there as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona's in the mix. I essentially have had to battle who is more likely to hit their maximum best potential outcome. Is it the team with a great quarterback who's never healthy, or is it the team with a young quarterback with all the tools, but he's a sophomore? I have K-State written down. I'll stick with Kansas State. I'll pick K-State and Utah, the teams I would have put 1 and 2 in the preseason poll if I had a vote this year. I'll pick the Cats. I don't love that pick. Not that I don't like that team. I do think KU probably has just as good of a chance to hit that ceiling, but I will go benefit of the doubt to the head coach that has been there, done that, won the league before. I'll go with the Cats along with Utah.
And that's what I'm picking as well. I think those are the 2 best programs. I think those are the 2 best coaches potentially in the league. And I got questions about every team. I have questions about Utah's offensive weapons and the health of Cam Rising. I have questions about Kansas State's defense. Who are going to be the playmakers? Who's going to be the guy who makes an impact rushing the passer this year? Who's going to be the guy that makes the impact in the secondary making big plays? I have questions about KU, Jalen Daniels' health, what the offense looks like without Andy Koldenicki calling the shots. I have questions about Arizona, Brent Brennan in his first year. Can he pick up where Jed Fish left off with that really talented offense? I have questions about Oklahoma State, mostly about their quarterback. Is Alan Bowman going to be good enough to win games in the Big 12 this year against some of the quarterbacks he's going to have to beat to get Oklahoma State back to the level they were at? I got questions about everybody. So this is not me picking the 2 teams I have the least number of questions about. They're just the 2 teams I trust to find answers to the questions the most because of who their coach is and what their track record is. So I think Utah and Kansas State. And I think something else that helps Kansas State, I like the way the schedule shakes out for them. They get Oklahoma State at home. They get Kansas at home. They have 2 winnable road games in between those, Colorado and West Virginia. Then they've got Houston, Arizona State, and Cincinnati. Would it shock you if those are 14 through 16 in the conference standings this year? Those games before Farmageddon, I think give them a chance to really hit their stride and be in the mix. I don't think they're going to trick any of those games off. I think they're going to be there at the end as a team that will have a chance to have the tiebreaker over Oklahoma State and Kansas, who I think are right there in the mix at the top of the league. And I think if they win their home games, they hold serve at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, then they'll have the valuable tiebreakers that, didn't help them last year, rather famously, but I think will help them this year.
No, I'm there with you. I think the top of this league is incredible. This is the deepest the Big 12 has ever been.
Yeah, 5 teams getting preseason first place votes. I do not remember that happening certainly in the 10-team version of the Big 12.
I think you could make an argument for as many as 8 teams to win the league. Maybe not super strong arguments, but I think you could 7 or 8. I think you could make an argument. Like Iowa State, frankly, I don't think they will win the conference. We'll get to them in a moment here. I can make an argument for Iowa State. Matt Campbell is a good coach. I really like Rocco Beck, and they brought everyone back. Almost everyone who contributed last year is back. Yeah. That's a very easy argument to make.
I think there's a clear top 5, and I would be surprised if the league champion came from anybody who wasn't Utah, K-State, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and Kansas.
I agree with that.
But, the teams that are on the periphery, they win the right games, they could absolutely find their way to Arlington.
Maybe this is the year Texas Tech breaks through.
Maybe they have the close game luck that eluded them last year. Who is going to win the Big 12?
I've got Utah. I think Utah wins the league. I understand the concerns, certainly about the health of Cam Rising and the fact that is just an old team. I also think they're a really damn good team with a really good coach. I think they're the most well-rounded group in the league, so I'll go with Utah.
I am picking Kansas State.
Okay.
I'm drinking the Avery Johnson
Kool-Aid. I was going to say, so you're all in on Johnson.
I'm all in on Avery Johnson.
Okay.
I think he's that guy. I think he will juice this offense throughout the year. I think they're better at wide receiver than people realize. I think they're really good at running back, and people realize that. And I think they're going to have a lot of fun utilizing a weapon like Dylan Edwards to go along with what DJ Giddens can do. I expect them, they lost a lot of offensive line experience, obviously, but they have more back than people realize in terms of experience in the program. Guys like Taylor Poitier and Hadley Panzer. You'll hear Chris Klieman talk about this when we play his press conference at the top of the hour. So I expect the offense to click at a similar to better level than it did last year, which means it's going to come down to the defense. And frankly, I think the defense is in a better place. Even if you don't have that bold-faced pass rush threat like they did a couple of years back with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, I think the defense will be in a really good place this year. And I like their depth on the line. I think they've addressed depth at linebacker. I think their corners are maybe underrated nationally. I think it's a complete team, and I think that they win the Big 12.
Real quick, regarding the offense for K-State, do you think with Matt Wells calling the plays and then with also Connor Riley as co-OC, do you expect the offense to be as good, slightly better, or slightly down from last year with the coaching changes?
Slightly better.
Okay.
Because I think there are more playmakers at wide receiver, and I think that
more experienced in the system, sure.
Yeah.
Or with the program.
Anyway. Yeah, and I don't think, Connor Riley I being involved means I don't think they're going to miss a beat. I don't think it's going to look dramatically different. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be something that's unrecognizable.
It's incredible how similar the arguments for both KU and K-State are this year.
Yeah.
They're the same argument for both teams.
Will both of the finalists, the conference finalists in the Big 12, make the college football playoff?
I will take the pessimistic side here. I say no. I think only Utah gets in as the 4 seed.
I am right with you. I also do not think that they will get in. I think K-State does. They get in on a tiebreaker. They're a strong 10-2, maybe 9-3, but I think the tiebreakers will fall kindly because I think they are going to win those home games against Oklahoma State and Kansas.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get some individual awards. Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12 Conference. Brendan, who you got?
I'm going with the best running back in the league, Devin Neal. I think he is in line for a massive year. Now, the big question is, how does that offensive line play in front of him with a couple of guys moving on? Obviously, Dom Pooney, Amarje Reed-Adams, as well as Mike Nowitzki, who's been great. I think Bryce Foster is an upgrade at center, though. The other 2 starting guards are back. So I think Neal's in line for a really, really big year.
He scores a lot of touchdowns.
A ton.
17 touchdowns last year.
He's a good receiver, and I would not be surprised if KU uses him even a little bit more in the passing game this year. He's the total package. He really is.
Yeah, I like him a whole lot, so much so that I also wrote him down as my offensive player of the year this year.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I did, again, I think it's going to be a prolific offense. I think they're going to lean really heavily on Neal, particularly around the goal line. And I think that at the end of the year, we're going to look, and he's going to have the big rushing yard total. He rushed for 1,280 yards last year. If he's up around 1,300 and he rushes for 17, 18 touchdowns, that's going to be really hard to deny. Like Ollie Gordon rushed for 21 touchdowns last year. I don't know that we're going to have a 20 touchdown guy in the league this year. But again, if Needle does that again with even more touchdowns than last year, I think he's going to be in line to win the award.
Ollie Gordon, by the way, you bring him up. So he's at media days for Oklahoma State, and
yes,
he's not even getting suspended for his DUI
no,
last
he
month.
Isn't.
You know who their FCS game is this year?
I do not.
South Dakota State.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got like, oh, yeah, we're playing Furman. You're suspended week 1. Nah, man, they're playing the national champs. That is not a cakewalk for Oklahoma State. That team can really play.
He's got to play. Defensive player of the year. I'll start first. I'm going with Oklahoma State linebacker Nick Martin here.
Okay.
140 tackles last season. One of the best linebackers in terms of sacks and tackles for a loss in the league. Oklahoma State, I think, will have one of the 2 best defenses in the conference this year. Martin will be at the center of that. I don't know that there's a superstar pass rusher necessarily in this league. Travis Hunter won the preseason award. I don't know how much defense he'll play compared to how much offense he's going to play, because I think when he plays offense, it makes Shedeur Sanders look good. And that might be the entire point of Colorado's season in the end. So I lean away from Travis Hunter for that reason. I'm going to go with Nick Martin of Oklahoma State.
I am going to go with Travis Hunter, and I totally understand where you're coming from. Colorado might not have a choice in terms of who they need to play defensively this year. And he's a big name, and I think that's going to help. And he's a stud. And say what you want about the rest of the Colorado program and Coach Prime. Travis Hunter's a stud.
No, he's a wonderful football player. He's really, really fun to watch.
Yeah.
People who haven't gotten to see him play, or you didn't want to watch Colorado, you didn't want to buy into the hype. When you watch him play your team this year, you will be extremely impressed. He's a hell of a football player. Coach of the year, Brendan.
Easy for me, Kyle Whittingham. I think if Utah is going to win the league in their first year playing a whole bunch of new schools, you give it to the guy who led them there.
I'm taking Chris Klieman. I think that this is the year he wins that award, because I think people will look back. It's always go. It always seems to go Coach of the Year to who overachieved the most. And on the one hand, Klieman's team is picked to finish second in the conference this year. So if they win the conference, that's not overachieving. But I think the perception will be, well, he did it with no preseason all Big 12 players on the roster. So he did overachieve. And so I think Chris Klieman wins Coach of the Year this year in the Big 12 Conference. Offensive Newcomer of the Year, I'll start here first. Going with Utah wide receiver Dorian Singer 2 years ago.
Nice.
An 1,100-yard year at Arizona. Last year, kind of got lost in the wash at USC with all the other really good established receivers they had in that program. Now he's at Utah. Brant Keithy is the tight end who will get a lot of targets from Cam Rising, but they don't have a wide receiver one. Singer's going to be that guy. I think he goes over 1,000 yards and wins this award.
I can see that. My offensive newcomer, I am going with, this one's going to be hard because of how talented their backfield is, but I'm going to go with Penny Boone. He's just so talented. Now, the share of carries with RJ Harvey as well as KJ Jefferson might limit some of his usage, which would hurt, but I think he's just such a supreme talent. For defensive newcomer of the year, I'm going to be honest with you. These last couple of these last ones, really difficult for me. Give me Cho Bryant Struther, edge rusher transfer to BYU. Previously at UCLA. He was a fairly big deal as a recruit. His brother played Elijah Bryant for BYU basketball. They need someone off the edge. He might be their only option. So he's probably going to rack up a bunch of numbers.
I've got another transfer edge rusher. I'm going with Deion Hayes for Colorado, transfer from Pitt. His transfer made a lot of headlines because he got a huge NIL deal to stay in school at Pitt, and then he left after spring practice. Deion Hayes also, it should be noted here, not a real good guy. Has some off-the-field issues that are a bit problematic. I'm trying to find the exact details on that. I'll tell you what, all this transfer portal stuff with him is probably really good because it's buried all of the off the field stuff. Yeah,
that's the new market inefficiency.
Right.
Get in trouble, then transfer a bunch.
Right. Deion Hayes, transfer from Pitt, and last year he had 10.5 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks. I think he puts up good numbers for Colorado rushing the passer this year. 1 count of simple assault following a violent dispute with his girlfriend back in 2022 resulted in his arrest. So, yeah, not a great guy, but I think he will be the defensive newcomer of the year in the conference.
All right, let's get to surprises here. In a positive light, biggest surprise, give me Iowa State, man. I think they've got a real chance to make some noise here. Do you know who the highest rated passer returning to the conference is this year?
Is it Rocco Becht?
It is Rocco Becht. Because Timmy McClain, that's fake. He could not have possibly been that highly rated. Jason Bean, Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, none of whom are in the Big 12 anymore. Rocco Becht is next. And they've got everyone back. I believe they lead the country in returning talent.
I am going to go with UCF.
That's a good pick.
I'm planting my flag. I think it's an 8-win team. I'm planting my flag at UCF and just think that they're going to out-talent some teams in a way that they weren't capable of. None of the newcomers were capable of out-talenting anybody last year. It's why UCF went 6-7. But maybe their season looks different if they don't trick off that huge lead they had over Baylor. I think their schedule is pretty manageable. Their toughest road game in conference is probably Iowa State. And, they've got home games against Colorado, Cincinnati, BYU that are all winnable for them. I think this is an 8-win team when all is said and done. That trip to the swamp is going to be a fun one for them, too. Non-conference on October 5th.
They are going to make Billy Napier walk into the ocean if they lose to UCF at Florida.
He may have already had to do that by that point in the year, depending on how things go. All right, biggest disappointment.
West Virginia. I said it yesterday on the show. There's a reason they only gave Neil Brown a 1-year extension. They do not believe in him, and neither do
I. I'm going to say Oklahoma State in the sense that I don't think
spicy.
I think they're good. Like I'm not going to say that they're going to miss a bowl or whatever it is. I just don't think they are good enough to mix up at the top of the conference. I had them picked, I think 5th or 6th in my preseason poll because I just think that the quarterback issue is going to be too much for them to overcome. Alan Bowman is not good.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to go up this year against Cam Rising and Avery Johnson and Garrett Green and Hoover at TCU and Morton at Texas Tech and Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. And they're not going to have the best quarterback in the majority of those games.
That's fair.
And are they going to have to lean too heavily on Ollie Gordon? I think their defense is going to be really good. That's going to help. But, takeaways they really thrived on last year. Maybe that swings back to the mean and they don't have the luck in close games that they had last year. I think they take a bit of a step back this season. They're probably about an 8-win team to me.
Fair enough.
All right. Give me one bold, spicy prediction for Big 12 football.
So I don't know how bold this is. I had a really hard time with this because I think the league is so wide open. It's hard for me to say something super bold. So I don't know how this is like a 2 on the spice scale. Someone gets fired before the season is over. A head coach will be fired before the season is over.
Okay, an in-season firing?
An in-season coach firing.
My bold prediction is also, let me be clear. We are not rooting for coach firings.
Absolutely not.
No, we're not. We're not.
You don't talk about another man's job.
No, exactly. We're not rooting for anybody to get fired. I think this is it for Kalani Sitake at BYU.
The only reason I did not explicitly say him is because that's just not BYU. I don't think has ever fired a coach midseason, at least not from my brief research last night. I could not find an example of that. I mean, they haven't had that many coaches, but he's the one that popped into my mind. Like if they're 2-7 or something, you punt and you move on. Because like I said yesterday, that team has way too much money in that program to settle for being bad.
That's not a fun one to do. I wish I was doing a more positive one because the other one I didn't give is I think Colorado only wins 3 games. I think Colorado goes 3-9. They get worse.
What's the total? 4.5 for them?
4.5, I think is the total for them. But I think they're going 1-2 in the non-league, and it could be 0-3. They could lose at Colorado State.
They're not a good team. Like they're really not. But I don't think 3 is all that outlandish. I picked them to beat North Dakota State, but I would not be surprised if they lost. 5.5.
Is it 5.5?
At least it was when they were originally released in May.
Blood bank.
Yeah.
Bet your baby on it. Lock of the week.
Right,
lock of the year.
Get those apps open, folks. I already put multiple units on KU to beat them. That line came out early. KU was only favored by 7. I have indulged in that spread quite a bit.
So those are your Big 12 season predictions. Brendan likes Utah to win the conference. I'm riding with the Cats. What say you? Hit us on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Give us your predictions, bold, spicy, or otherwise, for this upcoming Big 12 season. You can also drop them in the YouTube live chat as well. We'd love to see them. We'll take a break, come back with a little Random Question Tuesday here from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 334 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Trenton with you. A round of Random Question Tuesday. Brendan, go first.
All right, my random question for you. This was inspired by being out in the hallway and hearing Jack FM, our sister station, right at the top of this past hour. What song automatically ruins your day? You hear it on the radio, you hear it in a TV commercial, wherever, and it just ruins your day that you heard it.
My Maria.
I probably should have guessed.
It's always My Maria, man. I hate that song. I hate it so much.
Oh, man. Trenton, do you have one? Just an automatic, like, day ruined song?
Yes, and it's a song I used to like. The song "We Are Young" by Fun.
By Fun?
Yes.
Okay. There was a period of time where you could not go 3 songs on the radio without hearing that song. Why'd you turn?
Because I used to like the song, but then there was like this TikTok trend where like people would like start like banging on like a table or whatever and playing the beat, and then people would start singing it. And I swear to God, people in my high school did it every day, too many times a day. And I was like, this is annoying. And I just
Ruined it for you?
yes, it's like it just ruined it for me.
No, that's totally fair. Mine, very easily, is Interstate Love Song. I heard the first notes of Interstate Love Song as I walked down the staircase earlier, and my whole mood shifted in the negatives. All right, 316 texter.
Couple of entries on the Top City Mental Supply text line.
One from the 316, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. That's the name of the chant, not the song, pal.
All right, we're being
It's fighting Jayhawk.
We're being
Get it right.
We're being pedantic now.
Very.
We're so angry. We're being pedantic.
That's actually very funny. From the 785, Texas Hold'em by Beyonce. It doesn't ruin my mood. The first few times I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of a bop. And then I heard it a lot and thought, okay, yeah, I don't really like this. But that one doesn't ruin my mood. There are a few songs I'll hear on one of our country stations that will definitely... Like, I'm at a point where if I hear Luke Bryan's voice, I just change the station. I can't do it. I understand why he's popular. He's been popular for a long time. I can't do it anymore. It's bad.
My wife likes Luke Bryan. We've got one for the 75, Bang a Gong, Get It On by T-Rex. Wow, that's a throwback.
I heard that song the other day, and I thought, wow, this song does suck.
Was there a cover of that one that was popular in the 80s? Power Station. Power Station did the cover of it that was big in the 80s.
Yeah. No, that song sucks. That was a good take.
Robert Palmer, the Power Station. Yeah, that the Robert Palmer version of that song. What's the flip side answer to that? That a song that has worn you down and that you didn't like at first, but now you kind of dig. Like, what's the song that just defeated you, that ground your defenses to a nub, and now like you're like, yeah, this song is fine.
Ooh, that's
or maybe you even like it.
You know, here's a throwback for you. This song. God, this song's a decade old now. Holy cow! Royals by Lorde. I remember hearing that song the first time and thinking, this sucks. Why are you all listening to this? And now I know all the words.
Yeah, it's a toe tapper.
I have to pause someone mid-conversation so I can say Diamonds on Your Timepiece every time.
My answer, so there is a country artist who is on the pop charts these days.
Dasha?
No, I don't know who that is.
No, that Austin song.
No, I had no idea what you're talking about. Absolutely no clue.
No, it's also not very good.
I'm talking about the interpolation of Tipsy by Jayhawk, performed by the artist Shabuzi. Hated it at first. Was very upset. Why do we need an interpolation of Tipsy by Jayhawk, which is a perfect song, a song about getting drunk at the club, performed by Jayhawk, who, by the way, was not of age when Tipsy came. I think he was like 16. When Tipsy came out. Anyway, no, that song has completely worn my defenses down. Freaking toe tapper. I sing it around the house all the time.
Man, I can't believe Spencer's not here to hear you say this. I remember sitting in the studio, Spencer brought it up, and you're like, no, this sucks. I'm never listening to it again.
No, I told him about that the other day. I did. Him and I told him, I think off the air, that, you know what, man, that song has gotten me. And he says, well, Shabuzi's got these other songs too. I said, I'm going to be real with you, Spencer. I'm never hearing those songs. I'm never going to listen to any of those songs. A couple of more answers to songs that ruin your day. Earl's Gotta Die. Goodbye, Earl.
Goodbye, Earl.
By the Chicks. That's from the 785. Also, the ad jingles on some commercials that air on this station from the 785.
Don't name any names.
Yeah, we got some. Those are all heaters. If you work in a radio station, they all those are the songs that grind you down.
Oh yeah.
Do you have one that has ground your defenses down and that you like now?
It's another Lorde song, Team.
Oh no, that's not rules.
Because what about NBA 2K15? Do you know? I grew up on that. Heard that a lot.
Video game soundtrack
No, that's
song.
for real.
That's another one for another day, but that's going to round up Random Question Tuesday. More from Brett Yormark for Big 12 Media Days when we come back on 580 Sports Talk. Brett Yormark led off Big 12 Media Days in Las Vegas earlier today with his opening statement. We played that for you in the 2 o'clock hour. He also took questions, and we'll hear the best of those questions now here on 580 Sports Talk.
Commissioner Yormark, thank you for your comments. Your last comment triggered a thought as we move into this new era of paid college athletes. With that, a lot of the discussion revolves around the NFL model and a salary cap. Do you envision student athletes unionizing so that they're exempt from antitrust and you are exempt from antitrust, therefore creating a salary cap?
Okay, it's a great question. What is your name again?
Kevin Turner, Sun Devil Radio Network.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. We have not discussed a salary cap. I think settlement provides a very crystal clear future and path forward for our industry. It provides incredibly enhanced benefits for our student athletes. And as I said during my comments, that's what they want. And that's what settlement delivers. I appreciate your question, though. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Tyler Budge, CF Budge, 14.
Tyler, nice to see you today.
Thank you. 14-team playoff has been something that's been talked about a lot as it was agreed to start in 2026. And it was surfaced in this offseason that the SEC and Big Ten are talking about making those 2 first-round buys exclusive to the SEC and Big Ten. What are your thoughts on that sort of proposed model, and what would be your hopes to happen going forward?
Well, listen, we've got Richard Clark here today, the new executive director of CFP, so feel free to ask him any questions. From my perspective, we're just getting into this new format of 12 schools, and we've got to see how that works. And we're very excited about what that new format looks like. Obviously, the Big 12 will be represented by one team at least, possibly more, probably more. And we'll have to see how it unfolds. But from my perspective, anything beyond this year is just speculation. Let's get this year right. We're all blessed to have games on campus in that first round. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see where it takes us moving forward. But thank you for your question.
Barry Trammell, Tulsa World.
Barry, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Connected to the previous question, 2 conferences have sort of flexed their muscles and made a lot of not decisions, but clues that they're really trying a power play. What is the Big 12 doing in response to that?
Barry, I wake up every morning, I think about one thing, the Big 12 being the best version of itself. Everything else doesn't really matter. And if we take care of business, we're going to be just fine. And I'm a firm believer in that. As I said earlier, we're more relevant now than we've ever been. We're a national conference. We've got 16 great brands. We're going to be the deepest football conference in America. We'll be well represented in the CFP. Everything else is just speculation. I'm really, really focused on just making sure the Big 12 is the best version of itself. And not only have we had a great 24 months, but we continue to get better. But thank you for your question.
Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents Media.
Kenneth, how are you today?
In regards to the way you've managed to capitalize off, let's be honest, the choices that the Pac-12 made and didn't make, how are you working on becoming a bigger power figure in the West Coast now that, that conference is essentially gone? And have you worked with the WWE in regards to their NIL program? Because they've had like the Cavalier twins, and they've worked with TCU and other people in regards to that.
So we've got a great relationship with WWE, and excited to continue to expand that. As it relates to the West Coast, this is a great example. It's indicative of our appetite to move a little west with some of our tentpole events. Being in Vegas is critically important to us. Even before last year's realignment, I said that we had to be in Vegas and a little bit more west. This is the entertainment and sports capital of the world right now. So being here is critically important for our brand and our business. And we'll continue to explore opportunities to take some of our tentpole events, our champion events, more to the West Coast if the opportunity presents itself and if it makes sense. Thank you for your question.
Henry Greenstein, Lawrence Journal World. With the permissive cap for revenue sharing that's being laid out in the House settlement, some schools, including in the Big 12, have already said they'll revenue share at the maximum possible level. My question is, how quickly will Big 12 schools need to get to that maximum for the conference to be as competitive as possible?
Well, I'm going to leave it up to the schools to dictate that pace. But I can tell you that, as I said in my opening comments, we as a conference, which means our 16-member institutions, are going to continue to compete at the highest levels, and we'll continue to invest in the areas that we need to in order to do so. Very confident about how we're going to spend and invest over the coming years, but obviously to the pace at which it moves, I'll leave that up to the schools.
Hey, Sean Gerarger from CBS Sports. How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. So you mentioned private equity as part of your opening statement. So I'm curious, one, what does a model look like in college sports that makes sense? And two, how does the Big 12 kind of work with private equity in a way that doesn't create major long-term liabilities, especially?
I'm not going to get into too much of a conversation on private equity, but as I said earlier, we're exploring all options. I do believe that given where we are, the industry, having a capital resource as a partner makes a ton of sense. That's really how you conduct good business. I really believe that. And if you see where private equity is kind of making a path into professional sports, at some point in time, it's going to come here into collegiate athletics. So we are exploring what that might look like. And a structure and a model of what that looks like is going to be critically important so that we're not compromising the long-term future of the conference. And we have surrounded ourselves with subject matter experts as we vet out the possibilities. And whatever we do is going to have to benefit the conference, both short-term and long-term, provide optionality for our schools. We're not there yet, but we are exploring the different options and the different structures that best suit our conference and our schools.
Hey, Commissioner, how you doing? Parker Ream from Fox 44 in Waco.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. You mentioned a lot about the future of this conference, and obviously this is the first year in a while that Texas and Oklahoma have not been here. What do you think the 4 brands that you added this year kind of do to make up for that difference, and just kind of the outlook for the future of this conference as a whole?
I've been saying it for a year now, but the Four Corners was the A scenario for us when we thought about realignment. Big brands, great markets, engaged fan bases, both academic excellence and athletic excellence. And as I said earlier, we got deeper and better in football, we got deeper and better in basketball, and we got deeper and better in Olympic sports. So it's been a win for this conference. And I'm thrilled and excited on August 2 to officially welcome the Four Corners. Oh, as I said, they're here today, obviously. And I think we're in for something pretty special as a conference. I really do. Thank you for your question.
Commissioner Trey Strelko, Sons of UCF. Earlier, you spoke about 16 strong brands. Is there any number that's too big for a conference in terms of its membership?
I haven't really thought about that. I often get asked about expansion and what's next. I'm really focused on the current composition of our conference. We've expanded a lot. My wife told me the other day, when you took the job, you had 10 schools, you have 16 now. And that's in a very short period of time, in less than 24 months. So we've got to make sure that as a collective group, we're reaching our potential. So I haven't really thought about what's the right number. I don't know if it's really about a number. I think it's about the right fit. It's about the value a potential school might or might not bring to the conference. But right now we're focused on 16. We're focused on getting this right. And I'm really excited about our future as a 16-team league.
Mitch Harper, KSL Sports, KSL News Radio. Brett, you noted in your opening remarks that value creation begins with ESPN and Fox, and you're exploring new TV windows. What do those windows look like, and how is ESPN and Fox helping shape the narrative of the league?
Listen, all I can say on that is that Saturdays, there's a lot going on Saturdays, as we all know, a lot of competition. So the question is, are there new TV windows we can explore where we can highlight, elevate, and amplify our football programs maybe a little differently? And we're exploring that. There's nothing that we have vetted out specifically that I want to discuss just right now, but we're working at it, and we'll see where it takes us. But we've got to kick the tires and figure out other windows that make sense and provide great engagement for our fans and great exposure for our programs. And it's incumbent upon me to explore it, which I'm doing.
Hi, Brett. Alex Blackburn, College Football Dogs. You mentioned the focus on the 16 teams here that are here now. How important is the cohesion among those ADs and the unity to the overall future of the conference?
I think it's critically important. We have a like-minded group, which I think is paramount. And our ADs like each other. They compete, but they like each other, which is perfectly fine. You can compete and lean on your colleagues for advice and guidance. And I see that from my perspective. There's great rapport amongst our ADs. It's a great fit. I'm blessed to be working with each and every one of them. I think continuity makes a lot of sense amongst the ADs. And I'm hoping that presents itself over the short and long term. But we got a great group of ADs, and they're working hard to build the Big 12, our brand, our business. And I'm excited to be working with each and every one of them.
Hey, Commissioner. Nick Hamilton, Nightcast
How
Media.
are you?
How are you? You talked about branding and the importance of branding. You talked about social media. Obviously, college football 25 is due to be out, and that's going to give more exposure. But what are some of the other ways you feel like you can have a strong, solid brand for the Big 12 to be able to be in the conversations like we talk about the SEC and the Big 10 and so forth?
Well, I mean, I think and I spoke to it earlier, working with ESPN and Fox is critically important for us as they elevate and amplify and they story tell and create the right narrative. Our partnership with TuneIn gives us greater relevance and a greater narrative than we've ever had before. We're exploring a FAST channel, doubling down on social media and engaging with current and future student athletes in places where they are critically important. You know, this conference never had a CMO. We've got a CMO here for the first time in 26 years. And he's doing an incredible job. Tyrell, many of you know him. In building our brand so we can build our business behind it. And as I said earlier, we are more relevant today than we've ever been in our history. And a lot of that is because we're building our brand. Thank you for your question.
Hi, yes, Richard Obey, Playmakers KU. So in your opening remarks, you mentioned the fusion of old and new, and you haven't really spoken about that in any of these questions. So what does that look like, and how are you going to continue to fuse the old generations and the new generations coming forward?
Well, I think we've done a lot of that so far in our first 24 months. If you think about how we're using music to tell our story and how we've infused that and contemporized our championship events and did a halftime show, obviously a great example of, you know, taking a little bit of the old and having that marry with the new. I mean, people were concerned what were going to happen to the school bands if we did a halftime show. And we found a performer, Nelly, one of the best there is, that wanted to choreograph that halftime with our student bands, and it made for a wonderful experience for them. And you'll see us do more and more of that moving forward. But I think it's a balancing act. You know, we can't do away with the legacy and the heritage of where we've come from, but we have to modernize, we have to contemporize, and I think there's a way to stitch the two together. And we've shown how that can be done successfully, and we'll continue to do that moving forward.
That's Brett Yormark. We're going to hear from K-State head coach Chris Klieman to start the next hour of 580 Sports Talk. get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Wrzinski is in studio with me. Trenton Craxter is in the studio across the glass. Spencer Dupuis will be with us in a little while. We're with you until 6 this afternoon. No Royals baseball tonight. If you were tuning in thinking you might hear the boys in blue fire up the I-70 series against the St. Louis Cardinals tonight, that game was postponed several hours ago. Apparently is going to be very, very wet in St. Louis tonight. So they're going to play a split doubleheader tomorrow.
It's Hurricane Beryl, the remnants of it that
is that right?
Pounding St. Louis.
Yeah, apparently that went up through Houston and did a lot of damage, unfortunately. And that's obviously a major American city that's been hit pretty hard by hurricanes recently, and certainly hoping for all the best for our friends in Houston. So it's going to be wet, so there will be no baseball tonight. There will be a split doubleheader tomorrow, and you'll hear both games right here on your home for Royals Baseball, 580 WIBW. Pre-game coverage for Game 1 of the series will take place at noon. So noon sharp, we'll have pre-game coverage on the Royals Baseball Network. First pitch at 12:45 from Busch Stadium. Once that game concludes and the broadcast concludes, you're going to hear 580 Sports Talk. When will we start? Who can say? Perhaps the starting pitchers work quickly. Perhaps it is a long 12-inning game with a lot of mid-inning pitching changes and the return of Morgana the Kissing Bandit. Who can say how long the game will be? I don't know if she's still alive, Morgana the Kissing Bandit.
I don't know if she is either. Morgana.
I hope if she is that she is doing well.
Listed by Google as an American entertainer.
I'm sure some people were entertained.
Yeah.
In the 1980s.
Yeah, an American entertainer. Oh, she is. Yeah, she's still alive.
Still
she was born on the 4th of July.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Morgana still in the league. Who knew? That's an old Simpsons joke. The return of Morgana the Kissing Bandit. So whenever Royals baseball ends tomorrow afternoon, we're going to take over here on 580 Sports Talk, and we'll have you until 6 o'clock, at which point we will hand it back to the Royals Baseball Network for coverage of Game 2 of the split doubleheader. That is the previously scheduled game. It was scheduled to start at 6:45 tomorrow night, and so that's when it's going to start tomorrow night. In between, we will have 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk about Royals baseball. We will hear from Lance Leipold from Big 12 Media Day, and we'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com. Lots of fun stuff. Set for tomorrow's show, it will just be a condensed version because there will be 2 Royals baseball games tomorrow.
Before we get to a little Royals baseball before we get to Chris Klieman, here in just a second, can I give a quick shout out to one of my favorite movies turning 20 today?
Sure.
I just watched it literally last night in full. It was on Paramount Network last night. 20 years of Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Oh, that movie's so good.
Released 20 years ago today. Paramount yesterday was just doing a marathon of Will Ferrell movies. So I got some dinner with friends, came home, and back to back, it was Step Brothers, then Anchorman, then Talladega Nights. And I've said this before on this program, and I will say it again, probably many times. Say whatever you want about Will Ferrell. He had a stretch of movies in the 2000s into the 2010s that is untouchable.
Will Ferrell's Linsanity run is truly all time.
I mean, just banger after banger after banger, including all those last night. Anchorman is probably one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Everything about it is just so funny and so perfect.
Whammy. I have not watched it in many years, but it really is a great one. That is truly one of my favorites.
Can we incorporate whammy?
Whammy!
As it was a sports thing, can we incorporate that in our sports talk?
I don't see why not, frankly.
I thought the same thing, not even kidding, when I was watching Step Brothers right beforehand, when Rob Riggle keeps going, pow! Such a good sound effect.
Boy.
But yeah, no, it's a perfect movie. I love it so much. Years from now, doctors will tell me I have an IQ of 48. The cast, it's a perfect cast.
Yes.
Ben Stiller as the Mexican newscaster. Probably not what you should be doing, but
the streets run red with Burgundy's blood. Such a quotable movie.
Oh, every part of it is quotable. I use ones that are a little too colorful for air.
Brick killed a guy with a trident.
Yeah, I killed a guy with a trident.
You should probably lay low for a while because you're probably wanted for murder. It is. That movie bats 1,000.
It's so good.
To this day. Bats 1,000.
It came out, if I'm not mistaken, something like exactly 2 months or just 2 weeks after Dodgeball did, which is also one of my Dodgeball came out on June 18th, and then Anchorman came out on July 9th of 2004.
True golden era of comedy right there.
They don't make comedy. I sound so old saying this. They don't make comedies like this anymore.
No, they don't.
There's too much irony. Like, just make something stupid that I can laugh at.
Texter from the 785 wants to shout out Old School as
also
well.
Also a classic.
Like, Will Ferrell's got like a Hall of Fame Pantheon level set of comedies. The Other Guys was on TV last night.
Great movie.
What you know about The Other Guys? Man, when The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson jump off the building, they look at each other and said, "You think what I'm thinking? Aim for the bushes." And they jump off the building, and the next scene is their funeral, their joint funeral. Like, I fell out laughing at that. That's one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
So
My Hero by Foo Fighters playing in the background as they go splat.
So from 2003 to 2008, Old School and Elf were released in the same year. Elf, a Christmas classic to many. 2004, Anchorman came out. 2005, he had a bunch of movies, including his role as Chaz in Wedding Crashers.
Great cameo.
2006, Talladega Nights. 2007, Blades of Glory. Really stupid, but still pretty funny.
Very quotable.
2008, Semi-Pro and Step Brothers. 2009, Nothing Special. Then 2010, The Other Guys. It's just
Hall of Fame.
Incredible.
Nobody's ever had a run like that.
No, it's untouchable.
All time.
Dodgeball's a top 3 movie all time for me.
I love Dodgeball. I watched it while I was on vacation with my wife's family last month. We had a movie night, and we stayed in this Airbnb, and they had this huge bucket of movies, and we all picked one and then picked a random number, and whoever was assigned the number, their movie got picked. I picked Dodgeball, of course, and I won, so we got to watch it. Perfect. Just so funny.
Speaking of semi-pro, did you see that clip of Hunter Dickinson wearing a headband yesterday at KU release? And like they had like a minute of highlights from their guys. Someone called him Jackie Moon. They said because he doesn't have the shaved head. He's got the curly hair now. And they call him Hunter Jackie Moon Dickinson. He's like, I can't take him seriously.
Jackie Moon.
They got to turn that into a late night bit. Got to do that.
Better movie than people remember, Semi-Pro. Anyway, we could quote Will Ferrell comedies for the entire rest of the show.
Fact.
But instead, we're going back to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Big 12 Media Days, day 1. Kansas State's contingent is in the building. Chris Klieman spoke to the media earlier today, and this is what he had to say.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out. It's great to be out here in Vegas. Thanks to Commissioner Yormark for getting this all set up, and we're excited to get things started here at the end of July. We're excited about our football team. We've got a lot of returning guys, but as everybody does, they have a lot of new guys as well. So it'll be nice to mesh those guys together come August. Competitive league, as usual. Great parity with the amount of schools and new schools we have, especially the ones that we play. So we're excited about the challenge.
I will go ahead and take questions. Again, please raise your hand. We'll get you a handheld microphone. Please stand, state your name and your affiliation. We have right down here in the third row on the right-hand side.
Coach, you obviously came from North Dakota State, and there's been a few other notable coaches that have come from FCS, Division II, even NAIA with Kalen DeBoer and his success after his time at Sioux Falls. What does it mean to you to see these guys getting these opportunities from coaching in those ranks? And do you think those guys tend to be overlooked sometimes?
I've said this since the day that I arrived in Manhattan, and football is football. And, you just need opportunities. And when you get opportunities, and if you're having success, you're going to get those opportunities. And I've known Kalen for a while, was so excited for him with the run they made last year. And there's a lot of good football coaches at all different levels. And I think you're going to continue to see coaches from NAIA, Division II, FCS, so forth, get opportunities.
Yeah, Chris, Barry Trammell with the Tulsa World. The esteemed voters of the Big 12 preseason poll picked you guys second, but they put none of your guys on the all-conference team. How do you rectify those two decisions?
Don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, to be honest with you. Everybody sees it, but it's not something that we talk about an awful lot. I hope it shows people the overall depth and value of our roster and how important our role players are and how important our players are as far as if you're a successful team, individual honors at the end of the season are going to come. I'm sure that our players, if you'd ask them, they probably saw both polls, and I don't know if they're excited, disappointed, but I know they were aware that there was nobody from K-State on one of those teams. But you still got to perform, and we've got a lot of work to do before we get to end of August.
Hey, Chris, Colin Wilson with the Action Network. The hiring, Matt Wells comes in as co-offensive coordinator. He has a huge history with quarterbacks, specifically 2018 Jordan Love at Utah State. What does he bring to Avery Johnson, and what led you to bring him in?
Matt and I have been friends for more than a decade and had always talked, even when he was at Tech and I was here at K-State. And then when he went to Oklahoma, he and I have always stayed in contact. And it was just maybe the right time for him to get back on the field and truly coach. And we talked all through that bowl prep, and he was the one who I wanted to hire. It was just trying to get through that bowl time, and it worked out. But a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge with quarterbacks. And I've already seen in a short period of time, just the second semester, the value of him being with Avery. There's a great mesh there. There's a great comfort between the two guys. They are on the same page an awful lot. And I know that Avery, as well as our offensive staff, coaches, Coach Riley, our offensive coordinator, excited about some of the things that Coach Wells is going to bring to K-State, especially in the pass game. And I know that everybody wants to know what the heck we're going to do, but we'll wait until the fall to unveil that. But super excited to have Matt and his family in Manhattan.
Hey, Chris, Kevin Fielder from EMA Online. The secondary returns a lot of talent from last year. How important is that as you guys transition into this season with a fairly similar defensive structure?
It's really important. There's such talented offenses in this league, really good quarterbacks, really good skill players. And so for us to have bookend corners back in Keenan Garber and Jacob Parrish is really important for us. Those guys have played a lot of football. And then to have most of our safeties. VJ Payne's played a ton of football. Marquise Siegel, who's with us, has played a lot of football. Colby McAllister's played a lot. And then we've got some freshmen that are ready to step up as redshirt freshmen. A couple of transfers, a kid named Jordan Riley that I think people are going to learn and know an awful lot about by the end of the season. But you need to have great depth in the secondary, and we feel that that's an area that we have done a really good job of recruiting and developing talent, and then sprinkling in a transfer because you need to be really good in the secondary in this league.
Yes, Brian Peterson with AZ Desert Swarm. You kind of have the unique nature of playing 10 conference games with the Arizona game not counting towards it. Was there any discussion of pushing that off because of the fact that they're in the league now?
I think it was probably too late when everything got finished up with scheduling, and I'm glad that we're playing Arizona. They're a terrific football program, and it's a great early season game for the Big 12 to get on national TV on a Friday night. So that excites us, and I know it excites Arizona. There's really good talent on both teams. I'm hoping we ultimately get to an even number of conference games so that we're not on the 9-5 away, 4 at home. Then it's more of a 4-4 split of 8 games, or even a 10, because if you're going to have to play a Power 5, you might as well play it in your league and get 5-5. But no, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great showcase for the Big 12 in early September.
Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Coach, I believe you play 5 teams that are either new to the conference or second year in the Big 12. To what extent, if any, did that mean any extra work in preparation for your coaching staff?
Yeah, it definitely gave us a lot more work in the summer, and the month of June is already busy enough with recruiting and camps, and now we don't have the database like you'd have with a Tech or a Baylor or a TCU. We've got five new schools, or even BYU and Cincinnati have been in our league, but we didn't play them last year, so we don't have much data on them. And then we've got the 2 Arizona schools in Colorado, so a lot of extra work. I think it's excitement, though, for the fans, for both schools, as far as whether it's us going to Provo and seeing a great environment, because I've been there and I know it's a phenomenal environment, to us going to Boulder and seeing a great environment, or those other schools potentially coming to our place and seeing a great environment in Manhattan. I think the fan base of all the schools are going to be excited because they're going to see really good football, and they're going to see some different teams that they haven't seen throughout the year.
Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents. Coach, obviously you lose a lot of, senior leadership in BB, what he meant to the offensive line, and obviously the offensive line being the quarterback's best friend. How have you kind of just this offseason, tried to get the O-line to kind of embody his spirit? And when will he, be put in the Ring of Honor?
I don't probably make that decision, but Beeb's had a phenomenal career and he will be in the Ring of Honor for sure. But it's interesting. We lost 4 really good senior offensive linemen, but we have 4 really good senior offensive linemen returning. And that's something that maybe goes overlooked a little bit, the value of what Connor Riley does for our offense and for our program and for that room in the offensive line room, to lose the amount of seniors that we had and then still return the amount of seniors. Hadley Panzer, Taylor Poitier, Carver Willis have really taken over the reins from those guys that have left and have tried to keep that engine running. And we've always been really, really good up front, and it's due to Coach Riley. But it's those guys that have been in the program that want to stay and want to be developed and not want to get in the transfer portal just because they don't play in their first year. And an offensive line is a different deal. It takes sometimes a few years to develop. And we've got Hadley and Carver back that have played a lot. TP's played a lot. Andrew Linegame's going to play a lot of football that's been around. Sam Heck's going to play a lot of football that's been around. So we have experienced guys that have been with our program. They're just going to gain on-field experience quickly in the non-con.
Hi, Coach Klieman. Alex Blackburn, College Football Dogs. Going from the offensive line to the defensive line here, how important will the physicality and experience up front defensively be given the talent of the ground games in this conference?
We've been really fortunate that freshmen that I think can really be effective pass rushers. And there's no doubt about it. You've got to be able to stop the run, and you've got to be able to get a good rush on the passer.
Hey, Chris, Jenny Carlson with Beyond the Box Score. You guys played Oklahoma State last year when Ollie Gordon was just getting going. You obviously know what really good running backs look like at K-State. I'm curious just what impresses you about him, and obviously they'll be in Manhattan this year. What's the challenge of handling him?
Yeah, he's a tremendous talent. He's got really good speed. He's a home run hitter, as well as he can run through arm tackles. And he had a breakout season, and it's probably started around our game, and he continued to elevate. And he's a terrific football player, and we're glad we play him in Manhattan and not Stillwater. We've struggled in Stillwater, and we've played better in Manhattan, but that's the nature of our league. You're going to face really talented running backs each week. You're going to face talented quarterbacks, and you've got to stay healthy, and you've got to do a great job of trying to eliminate explosive plays. And last year, Ollie got us on a couple big ones, and we've got to prevent that.
All right. Coach Lynn Harrington with Stay Alive in Power 5. How you doing today?
Good.
That's good to hear. So we're going to talk about, you have one of the most talented running backs in this league, and DJ Giddens. Last season, he split carries with Trayshawn Ward. Do you plan on giving him more of a workload this fall, or how's that going to work out with the
it'll probably be pretty similar in the fact of DJ can carry it 30 times, and he did that a few times for us last year. He can carry it 20 times. DJ's an every down back, and I think he's tremendously underrated in our league. DJ is just a phenomenal football player. That's a great kid, great pass protection, great out of the backfield catching the ball. He's going to have a dynamite year for us. We just have surrounded him now with some more talent that we don't maybe have to rely on him as much. There's some games that we're going to give it to him and he'd be ready for it. And there's other games where we've got to spread it around more and we've got to throw the ball a little bit more so that the offense or the running game does open up. And so we got another tailback in Dylan Edwards. That's a really good complement to DJ with, kind of some speed as well as electricity and elusiveness in the open field. So that's the thing that probably excites us the most as offensively. We have a lot of guys around Avery.
Coach Jason Shearer, Wildcat Authority. For the 4 new teams to the conference that maybe aren't familiar with Kansas State, how would you describe your brand of football?
Consistent, don't beat themselves, try to play really good defense, try to rush the football, try to, not turn the ball over and hit the explosive plays when you have the opportunity. But hopefully a physical brand of well-disciplined kids that play the game the right way. And I'm excited because of all those teams. We're going to find out a lot about them too, because there's really talented football teams coming into this league. And that's why it's so hard to predict how any order of finish could be with all the new teams that are coming in.
That was Chris Klieman earlier today in Las Vegas at Big 12 Football Media Days. Lance Leipold, KU head coach, addresses the media tomorrow, and we'll play that press conference for you on tomorrow's edition of the show. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we got another round of What Is Wrong With You to come here from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk. A Tuesday edition of What is Wrong with You here on 580 Sports Talk. 2 news stories trying to take down the Monday champion, GTA Kentucky, we called it. A man in Springfield, Kentucky, who tried to hijack a woman's car at gunpoint while in traffic near a sheriff's deputy's vehicle, who got the whole thing on video.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Tried to hijack a vehicle right in front of a police officer. He did not get away with it.
I'm not surprised by that.
So that's GTA Kentucky. My story today is GTA Nebraska.
Hell yeah.
We're going to my old stomping grounds at north or west central Nebraska. This story out of North Platte. Troopers with the Nebraska State Patrol arrested 3 people and recovered 2 stolen vehicles and multiple stolen firearms on Saturday.
Wow.
The incident began around 12:15 p.m. Saturday when troopers learned that the Ogallala Police Department was involved in the pursuit of a Ford F-150 pickup that had been stolen out of Wyoming. Ogallala PD discontinued the pursuit out of concern for public safety. The vehicle exited the Brule interchange on I-80. I know all of these exits. I did so much road travel when I was working in Nebraska. The Brule interchange on I-80. The trooper tried to stop the vehicle, but the driver fled westbound on Highway 30, continued traveling south on country roads south of I-80 before coming to a stop at a residence and then running away. 2 of the individuals then stole a Ford F-350.
Oh.
So they upgraded and drove through various county roads in Dual, Perkins, and Keith counties before getting back on I-80 eastbound. As the vehicle passed the Ogallala interchange, the Ogallala Police Department successfully deployed stop sticks to the vehicle. 2 people were taken into custody. The 3rd person was taken into custody after searching the location where the first vehicle was abandoned. The driver, 20-year-old Michael Ayala, was also arrested for flight to avoid arrest and willful reckless driving. The 2 passengers are both minors, age 18. Troopers found stolen firearms, stolen credit cards, and meth.
Yeah, of course.
Inside the first stolen vehicle. So all 3 face possession of stolen vehicle, possession of stolen firearms, possession of meth, possession of a stolen financial transaction device, obstruction, and criminal mischief charges.
Oh, my.
Do you get double points for stealing the upgraded vehicle? We were talking about GTA Kentucky. This is GTA Nebraska.
I think so. That adds a star.
Definitely GTA Western Nebraska. Meth and pickup trucks and county roads.
Sounds about right.
Shout out to West Central Nebraska. All right, that's my story today. Trenton, you've got one.
Yeah, I think the theme of the week so far is GTA.
Okay.
But this is to a commonplace in the What is Wrong with You realm. GTA Florida. Florida women plural, accused of street racing twice the speed limit with children in car.
Oh no.
Both women face charges of child neglect and highway racing. In Ocala, Florida, 2 Florida women were arrested last week after a street race in Ocala, according to the police department. In a release, police said the incident happened on Friday around 1:50 in the morning.
Oh, no.
Near the 3100 block of Southwest College Road. An officer there spotted 2 sedans, a Cadillac and a Toyota, racing west along the highway at around 93 miles per hour, the release shows. The speed limit in that area is only 45 miles per hour.
Wow.
The officer eventually caught up to the 2 cars and pulled the Cadillac over near the 3800 block of Southwest College Road, police said. According to the release, the Cadillac was Jamiria Blunt, 22, and she had a 15-year-old in the front passenger seat. The Toyota was also pulled over. Police said that driver was Kiera Johnson, 22, had an 8-month-old child in a rear-facing car seat. The
Oh,
release
my
states.
God.
Investigators say the 2 women were arrested and both faced charges of child neglect and highway racing.
Well, at least Kiera Johnson's 8-month-old was properly secured in a rear-facing car seat.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's good. Safety first. I think that's really important. When you're street racing at 2 a.m. Wow.
Oh, my God.
93 and a 45.
Yeah, man. That's holy smokes.
Yes, the child endangerment, I think, is what puts that story over the top today.
Yeah, I agree. I hate these people, though.
Yeah. I think that's gonna beat GTA Kentucky as well. That's kind of my lean, is when you're like, it's one thing to do a crime, but like when you involve innocent people in your crime, that's wild to me. That feels very unnecessary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's terrible. I'm gonna vote for that one for the week too.
All right, GTA Florida, I guess. Street racing, Fast and the Furious Ocala Drift. We'll figure out something to call this one. That's your new weekly winner on What is Wrong with You. We're taking a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side, we're going to be joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net. He's in Las Vegas for Big 12 Football Media Days. We'll see if he's melted yet, and we'll get his thoughts on what he expects to hear from Lance Leipold and the KU contingent tomorrow, and some other Jayhawk topics as well. Jayhawk Weekly comes your way next on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. What a scene in Las Vegas, Nevada, these 2 days at the Big 12 Football Media Days presented by Totino's. Michael Swain of Fog.net is live on scene. He joins us for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, you can find Michael's work at Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and you can find him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, hot enough for you?
Hot enough. Look, guys, I will take a dry heat over the humidity we've had, in Lawrence and Kansas City the last couple weeks. So, look, I got here this morning and it was in the mid 90s at about 8 a.m. So that was pretty miserable, but I'll take it. As long as it's not humid, guys, I can live.
Yes, I am, as a Coloradan, as a native Coloradan, a very resolutely anti-humidity. So yeah, I don't mind the dry heat, but yeah, when they said it was 120 on Sunday, I felt pretty good about not winding up in Las Vegas. How has it been? What was day one like? How does it compare kind of to what it's been in Dallas the last few years?
Well, the setup is really the same. I do feel like a little bit of fish out of water here. Over the years, you find good spots to do interviews like this, right? And I'm like standing here like 50 feet from the stage, hoping that the music's not like getting in, because I don't know where I can go around here. Vibe positive. It's still interesting listening to new coaches. I thought, listening to Whittingham from Utah, I was really impressed by him, and you see why he's had so much success. I think just the way that he kind of commands a room, I thought was really, really interesting. Obviously, he kind of soft launched his retirement today, talking about in 2027 when Utah plays Miami at this stadium, right, Allegiant Stadium, that he probably won't be the head coach at that point. I thought that was interesting that he kind of mentioned that. But outside of that, kind of common themes are trying to figure out, what this new conference is going to look and feel like, right? You got some new schools that haven't been around the Big 12 before. And I thought Kenny Dillingham made some interesting comments about the fan support in the Big 12, where I think he said maybe 4 games last year, they had to use a quiet count pre-snap. And he says this year they're expecting that to be doubled, right? Any away game they're expecting to have to use the quiet count because the fan support so loud and so good. So I thought those are some of the more interesting things from some of those newer coaches. I mean, Joey McGuire is still always going to be a high energy guy. I thought Sonny Dykes talking about maybe the coaching, not failures, but just how they fell short coaching wise last year. I thought that was interesting. So those are some things that have caught my attention listening to all the coaches talk today.
What about Brett Yormark's comments today? What did you hear from him that was interesting or most intriguing to you?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Every time he gets up here to talk, right, this year and last year, it feels like I'm watching a scene on Silicon Valley where they've got, a CEO kind of pitching a startup company. He does a really good job of, I think, conveying the ideas confidently. And this is something that, and you talk to people around KU, the Big 12, like, this is who Brett Yormark is. He has some wild ideas and he portrays them confidently and can get you to kind of believe in them. So I think in terms of what was interesting, obviously mentioning the Big 12 still open for business. You're going to look at what's happening with the ACC, right? Florida State, Miami being 2 that probably won't be Big 12 schools long term, but there's a whole kind of litany of schools there that I think the Big 12 could still look at. I think in terms of Big 12 Mexico, saying that was a great, Silicon Valley term, pivoting from being men's and women's basketball to being women's soccer and baseball. I think basketball coaches are pretty happy about that across the conference. And then I think just the idea of private equity and finding kind of a naming right sponsor for the conference. He kind of brought that up again and didn't talk super in depth about it, but it's still something that he has brought up. And there's obviously been reporting out there that he has mentioned that to university presidents and athletic directors. And so that's definitely something that seems like it is in the works behind the scenes.
Michael Swain is our guest. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Michael, do you think that Brett Yormark is doing the right thing by continually trying out all these new ideas? Because it's good to be on the cutting edge, but some of these ideas are also not all exactly great. Do you feel like he's been showing the right amount of aggression in trying to keep the Big 12 at the forefront?
Well, I think, to some degree, you've got to kind of, how can I frame this? I'm not going to say fake it till you make it because that's not kind enough to the Big 12, but you cannot try and use traditional methods to become bigger than the Big 10 and SEC. Whether that be brand awareness, whether that is total revenue you bring in. Obviously, revenue sharing is coming to college athletics. So you have to find different ways to get yourself up to those big numbers. And so I think it's creative. I think some of the ideas maybe are a little bit out of touch of college athletics, right? I think for me, like Big 12 Mexico, like it's cool to say, hey, you're trying to expand the Big 12's footprint, but spending money on that, is that where you want to spend your money trying to expand? Is there better ways to use those resources where maybe you can have some more resonating effect? But I think broadly, the Big 12 needs to use creative means to close that financial gap because you've seen these TV deals that are coming up and the Big 12 just does not touch what the SEC and Big 10 have. So I think on the one hand, Big 12 has to be very creative. And I think Brett Yormark is the type of person to do that. But I think at the same time, there are just some ideas that you're like, is that really what college sports should be or what the Big 12 needs to do with some of its resources? And I think for some of those, the answer is no. But I think on a broader scale, find different ways to try and get money into the conference, right? That's a smart thing to do. And I'm hesitant about getting into private equity and what that means for schools and having a naming rights sponsor. Like there are different things there that I think are, you have to balance and make sure you're not getting a little too far ahead of yourself while, these people who are, they're not student athletes, right? They're just athletes, but they're not employees. So yeah, I think you got to kind of find a nice balance there.
Really quick, Michael, before we get to some KU notes previewing tomorrow, Old Trapper Beef Jerky is not sponsoring Media Days this year. It's Totino's. Have you indulged in any pizza rolls? Will you be taking any pizza rolls home when you're done, more importantly?
So a couple things there. First of all, I had no idea what this brand was when I showed up today. I'm not a big pizza roll connoisseur, not kind of my neck of the woods. So I had to kind of look that up and be like, oh, that's interesting. Second part, I was standing in line to get some lunch, and I heard some bowl people, I think it was Cotton Bowl people, maybe talking about it. I guess some of them had pizza rolls this morning. They had them out for breakfast for people that are working, and I guess they ran out. So I'm not sure if the sponsorship is off to a great start.
Listen, that might not be your neck of the woods, but eating pizza rolls for breakfast sounds like me my entire adult life before I met my now wife. So I would have certainly been indulging this morning, I think.
We need to get you out here. Fly in tonight.
Yeah. With everybody else having travel problems, I can only imagine what they would do to screw us over the night beforehand. As for tomorrow, day 2 of Media Days, KU will be there. What are you most excited to hear about from either Lance Leipold or the KU players?
Well, I'd love to hear hear from Jalen Daniels, right? He's not talked since September, and that's going to be the big story tomorrow. So that's where a lot of the focus, I think, is going to be from, I think, local reporters, national reporters. I was talking to a couple national people, 20, 30 minutes ago, and they're kind of wondering why there hasn't been much written about Jalen Daniels last 2 months. And, well, because he's not talked. So this will be there'll be a zoo around him tomorrow is my anticipation. So I think hearing from him just about his experience last year, right? Obviously a lot was said. He came out with his video, saying there's been a lot of talk, and you can quiet that down now. So I would love to hear his perspective on, what that was, what people got wrong about his situation. And then from Lance Leipold, I mean, look, there's so many changes going on right now with college football. I just was made aware today that the recruiting rules have changed for December, where coaches are now not allowed to go on the road to recruit in December, which is a huge deal when you have the transfer portal. So getting maybe Lance Leipold to take on that. That's kind of a niche thing, not something maybe everyone's going to be interested in. But I think broadly with Lance, it's going to be questions about, hey, think about 3 years ago, KU didn't make it, right? And then now all of a sudden, if KU's going to be one of the teams that everyone's going to want to talk about and talk to tomorrow. And so what is going to be like for this team this season, having a target on its back? I think some of those things that are more big picture look ahead to the fall, where we can get into a lot of personal stories, I think, during fall camp as those things unfold. But I think broadly for this team, a lot of coverage tomorrow is going to be about, things that have changed and how KU plans to deal with all the different things that are changing around the program, playing at Arrowhead. Like I mentioned, having the target on their back. There's just a lot to talk about with these guys. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Michael Swain is our guest. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. The preseason poll, the coaches poll for the Big 12 had KU finishing 4th, which is probably where I would have slotted KU, either 3rd or 4th personally. What would you say, Michael, is the most likely best outcome, like a realistic, this could happen, best case scenario? And what do you think is the, most likely worst case scenario this team could run into this year, just in terms of where they might finish in the league?
Totally. So I think best case scenario, right, this is a team that can go 10-2, right? Or better. Like, the schedule is that light. And if Jalen Daniels is out there and plays, what would be 12 regular season games, like, this team has the ability to go really far because they're going to put up a lot of points because they've got a special quarterback and a lot of receivers and a running back in Devin Neal that have been there and done that. That's going to be so important. And on the other side, I think this team is one injury away from being in a really bad spot because you've got all that talent at wide receiver and at running back. But if it's a redshirt freshman or true freshman quarterback, teams are not going to respect them, and they're going to make that guy beat them. So what does that mean? That means you're going to see 8 guys in the box against Devin Neal, and that's going to be really hard for any running back to deal with. So on the other side, I think 7-5, if Jalen Daniels plays, 5 games this season, I think that's totally something that could happen. I think everything about this season is very simple. Jalen Daniels has to play as many games as possible. And that, in an ideal scenario, is 12 or 14 or 15 if you want to, get a little ahead of yourself. And if he isn't able to play, like, the ceiling of the team just is lowered because the quarterback position, there's going to be a drop off. You can think the world of Cole Ballard or Isaiah Marshall. They are not Jalen Daniels at this point in time. So that's going to be a drop off. They'll have to be accounted for if Jalen can't play as much as I think he hopes and KU hopes.
Does that, you think, Michael, impact how Jalen Daniels is utilized this year, that maybe they're a little bit more hesitant even than they were last year to put him on the run or put him outside the pocket situations, knowing that there is no Jason Bean on this year's team to come in and back him up and soften the blow if Daniels couldn't go?
Well, I love you asked that question. So I was talking to another media member a couple weeks ago about this, and it was a really good argument discussion, however you want to frame it. I was of the opinion that, hey, you've got to be careful with Jalen because you have a guy that is special. And I think you pick two games, in my opinion. It's at West Virginia and at Kansas State, where you say, Jalen Daniels, you have the full playbook at your disposal. We are going to run you, and we are going to use your full skill set. Those other 10 games during the regular season, Jalen, you're not running a lot. We're not doing a lot of this read option stuff. We're going to use your arm. If you need to scramble and extend plays, do that. But we are not going to purposely run you more than 2-3 times a game. And, the other person pushed back and said, well, then that's not the KU offense. And I'm like, well, there's no KU offense if Jalen gets blown up on a read option because a middle linebacker read the play right and blows him up, and all of a sudden he's hurt again. So it's a really interesting discussion that you have to have, and I'm sure that's something that the KU coaching staff is going to talk about week in, week out as they make these game plans, is how comfortable are we with the workload Jalen Daniels has? And what are we willing to do in terms of putting him in positions where he can take hits? And that's going to be a balance they're going to have to find, and I'm not sure if that's a balance you find against Lindenwood or against Illinois or against UNLV. I genuinely think that West Virginia game is going to be the first time we'll see it, because that's a game where KU's going to have a target on its back, right? Everyone remembers KU going on the road and beating West Virginia a couple years ago when the KU offense surprised the West Virginia defensive coordinator, who came out in his media interview the following week and said, we had no idea that was coming, right? These guys have pride. They're not going to want to let that happen again. So that's going to be a really tough game for KU, and I'm really interested to see how they handle it, because, from then on out, you're looking at the K-State game being a really tough one, and that's a game where everything's on the table, right? But week to week, how KU handles Jalen Daniels' skill set and what they're relying on, really interested to see how they do that.
We're wrapping things up with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline from Big 12 Football Media Days in Las Vegas for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Who are you most interested outside of the KU contingent to hear from tomorrow?
I'm Arizona. I think it's a really, really fascinating situation. Obviously, you've got some of their best players that decided not to transfer after a big coaching change. And obviously, we've seen that happen with KU, right? A lot of guys decided not to transfer after Lance Leipold was hired. And it's resulted in some great seasons for KU. And obviously, the players that didn't transfer from KU and Leipold was hired are guys that were younger, right? Freshmen, sophomores. Where Arizona is in a different situation because those guys are actually older. And so I'm really interested to hear kind of, from the new Arizona head coach and just from their players, just what was that like, the decision-making process and their own expectations? Because I think Arizona, along with KU, has one of the lighter schedules in the Big 12. And I think they and KU are probably the two kind of quote-unquote dark horse teams this season because of their schedule.
All right, last thing, Michael, you've got a night in Vegas tonight. Craps table, slots, you can go see a show. What's the move?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of my 24/7 colleagues are here, so we're all going to get dinner tonight. And then after that, I genuinely don't know. I got to figure it out. I've not been to Vegas since like my senior year of college, so I got to try and figure out, as a 26-year-old now, what sounds fun. Different time now, right?
That's real.
Going to a club does not sound very fun to me right now, so I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do after I have some dinner.
Real quick, what's your game? If you're hitting a casino, what's your game?
Well, again, last time I was here in college, I made like $400 off of craps, so maybe I have to go and see if I still got the hot hand. But I also don't really have a lot of money I'm trying to spend, maybe like $50. So I got to go find a cheap table, which means I got to go far. So look, guys, I mean, I got a lot of research to do here in the next couple hours. I'm kind of getting close to being done with work, and then it's figuring out kind of what maybe things are going to look like tonight.
We appreciate you taking some time from Vegas with us. Michael Swain, Fog.net. This is Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, enjoy your evening. Enjoy tomorrow speaking with the KU contingent. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Can't wait to recap with you next week.
That is Michael Swain. Sports headlines and more coming up at the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Let's get it. Final hour of the day on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Online worldwide at 580WIBW.com. And on video on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the YouTube channel, WIBW News, Facebook also streaming the video live, as is our Twitter account, 580 Sports Talk. With you for one more hour today. Glad you are with us, making us part of your Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is here. Spencer Dupuis is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
We're gonna start doing like
we have entry music.
You're too young for Cheers. But you know when like Norm would walk in the bar at Cheers? Norm! Yeah, we're just gonna do Spencer every time we see you.
Have you ever watched Cheers?
No. I mean, maybe like if it's on a channel
in passing,
and you're like clicking through the channels when you were a kid. Yeah.
Sure. I've said this before, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. Cheers is a theme song merchant. That show stinks. Theme song merchant.
Top 10 all-time theme song.
A great theme song. Phenomenal. The show itself,
The Simpsons did a version of the Cheers theme song when Mo had flaming Mo's, where beer in a mug can warm you like a hug. I think about that all the time.
Sounds like
I think about the Flaming Moe's jingle. I feel like if somebody held me at gunpoint and said sing the words to one song or it's over for you, I would sing the Flaming Moe's jingle. I would sing the Flaming Moe's song from The Simpsons.
I would love to hear it sometime.
It's a classic episode. Aerosmith is in that one.
Well, next time we do a drive, like a drive to find more YouTube subscribers.
Scholarships.
Yeah. Scholarships. Yeah, we'll get like 10 more
scholarship subscribers.
Like
Jesus.
10 subscribers by the end of the show. Dan will sing a bit from The Simpsons.
Musical theater.
Yeah, musical theater in the 5 o'clock hour.
We are all here. Trenton Craxner's also here. He's across the glass, our producer engineer. Full house for the 5 o'clock hour. And in this 5 o'clock hour, we are going to get to the most interesting info that we didn't get to from day one of Big 12 Media Days, including Mike Gundy admitting to driving drunk on live television.
I think he's trying to get fired.
Did he say he's probably done 1,000 times?
We're going to play the audio. I'm going to make us listen to the audio. I'm going to make everybody hear what Mike Gundy said live on ESPNU at Big 12 Media Days today, by way of explaining why he's not suspending Ollie Gordon, who did get popped for DUI. He could have saved a lot of time and words by saying, I'm not trying to lose South Dakota State. But
right.
Like that's the real reason Ollie Gordon's not being suspended. But we'll get to some of the other quotes, info, and etc. that we didn't get to. Plus Spencer's Big 12 season predictions. We gave ours in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll get Spencer's picks for who's going to win the conference, who's going to be player of the year and coach of the year, all that
Can
good
I tell
stuff.
you who's not going to win the conference?
Who's not going to win the conference?
Cincinnati.
Spencer has been embroiled in a feud all day with Cincinnati fans.
Well, I'm not
Twitter.
the only one. I just clicked on Twitter and someone else tweeted him the score of the football game from last year, and his only response was Kansas football has been around for 134 years and has won 7 bowls or something along those lines was the response.
Yeah, like, hey man,
no,
I'm not of any sort of belief that I went to a school with a good program.
If you,
it's funny because I didn't even go to this school.
No. Literally have never covered the team playing a football game.
Spencer is embroiled in an online Twitter feud with the entire city of Cincinnati at this point. And really, the retort you just need to have at this point is, okay, you guys enjoy your diarrhea noodles.
Ew, don't say that.
Skyline chili. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But it's okay because I'm not the only one to say things about Cincinnati today because clearly the Big 12 didn't even know how to spell their name.
This is true. Yeah, they spelled the name. They did on the name plate. They had a locker room type setup for the jerseys of all 16 teams, like a locker for every team. And they did. They spelled Cincinnati. That's a tough one. They give it the 1 N, 2 T's instead of the 2 N's and 1 T.
CINCINNATI.
Yes.
Cincinnati.
2 N's, 1 T is correct.
Hire me to spell check for you, Big 12. Brett Yormark, here's your next cutting-edge innovation, a copy editor.
Spencer, you spelled it correctly in your tweet about Cincinnati, and maybe that was your downfall, because if you'd spelled it wrong, then people would not have been able to
spelled it wrong.
name search you and get at you. That's wild. You make powerful enemies in the Queen City. Anyhow, we'll talk a little Big 12 football later on this hour. We'll also do a bit of a series preview of the Royals and the Cardinals. They were supposed to play tonight. They've already been rained out. So no Royals baseball tonight. Split doubleheader tomorrow. Noon pregame for game 1 here on the Royals Baseball Network, 580 WIBW. A 12:45 first pitch for game 1. Then 580 Sports Talk after game 1. Then at 6 o'clock, we'll go back to the Royals Baseball Network for pregame before game 2, which is at the previously scheduled start time of 6:45. We'll do a little bit of a preview of the Royals and the Cardinals. But we start this 5 o'clock hour, as we always do, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We begin today with the field for the 2024 Paradise Jam. The Kansas State Wildcats will be partaking in the Paradise Jam this year, and they really should have tried to get out of this contract.
This is, I'm going to say it, this is embarrassing.
So the Paradise Jam, this is the one that takes place in the Virgin Islands.
Jerome Tang loves to go out of the country for the preseason MTE tournaments.
Yeah, they went to the Caymans 2 years ago. They won that MTE.
And they went to the Bahamas last year, right? Baha Mar or something? Yeah, they went to Baha Mar last year, didn't they? Yeah.
I think that's right.
He loves the Caribbean vacations, and I don't blame him. This bracket is horrific, though.
You are going to the Virgin Islands, if you are Kansas State, to have your RPI brutally murdered and left in a ditch.
The net rankings will not remember you fondly.
This is the field for the 2024 Paradise Jam. K-State will play George Washington to start the event. George Washington.
Do you guys know what their new team name is? Because they're not the Colonials anymore.
They are not the Colonials anymore. What are they, the Revolutionaries?
Correct. Yes. The Revolutionaries.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's pretty, you can call them the Revs. Yeah, it's kind of sick.
George Washington, by the way, 203 in the Ken Palm last year.
Oh, dear.
If K-State wins that game, they will play either Liberty, 137 in the Ken Palm last year, or Louisiana. Not Louisiana State, mind you. Louisiana.
No, formerly the program formerly known as Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns.
151 in the Ken Palm.
This is not getting better.
The top half of the bracket, UAB, who was actually kind of decent last year, made the tournament, 106 in the Ken Palm. UAB is playing Longwood. Longwood also
Virginia
made
school.
the tournament, won the Big South tournament, 161 in the Ken Palm. McNeese, that's a strong ass.
Actually good last year.
They won like 30-3.
Yeah, 30 and 3 in the regular season.
Coming back?
Strong ass program last year.
I love
McNeese
Will
State.
Wade.
Shout out to Will Wade.
College basketball outlaw.
McNeese, good last year. Who knows what that roster is going to look like? McNeese is playing Illinois State, 179 in the Ken Palm. Had a losing record in the Valley last year.
Yeah, that program has fallen on some hard times.
Shout out to Dan Mullen. He used to love to talk trash about Wichita State. Dan Mullen voted for his team to win the Missouri Valley. Dan Muller, excuse me. Dan Muller voted for Illinois State to win the Valley in the preseason poll the year Wichita State went undefeated for the entire season.
Yeah, the Redbirds have gone 5 straight years with an overall losing record. Not very pretty in Blono, as they call it right now. Tim Jankovic coached there at one point.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Jank.
For quite a while, in fact.
Shout out Coach Jank. Speaking of Jank, this field.
This sucks. Like, K-State should not be playing in
this. Kansas State should have done whatever it could to get out of this contract, get into a different MTE. Call anybody. There are teams leaving their MTE so they can play in the Vegas one this year, getting out of their contracts.
Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, Kansas State should not be in this. This event is beneath them.
They could have ended up in Maui. They could have ended up in the Bahamas at Battle for Atlantis. They could have gone anywhere better than this.
And the downside of this too is now you go and you better go 3-0 some of these you go to and it's like, okay, these are all, we're going to get a resume boosting game or two in here. Even if we lose one, if we come out of this 2-1, that's probably not so bad. 2-1 in this tournament would be very bad. You have to win this if you are K-State. So now you're going out to the Virgin Islands. You got to be locked in and clocked in, ready to win 3 basketball games.
And well, the thing is too, you can't just win. You've got to pound these. You got to beat George Washington by 20 or more. Otherwise, it's going to look bad in your metrics, the NCAA's official metrics, the net rating system. If you end up playing Liberty, you got to beat the Flames by 20 plus. Otherwise, it's going to make you look bad. This is bad for Kansas State, and I am very excited about what they are going to be this year. I think they will be a tournament team. I think they are probably going to be a top 6 team in the Big 12. I think they've got that kind of potential. This is gross.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I'm sure, I think when you enter an MTE, you don't know who else is going to be in it necessarily. I don't know how the process of it works, but if they had one spot left in that event and you're Kansas State, look at those other 7 teams, you got to be thinking, nah, man, this is beneath us. This isn't going to help us.
This is a tournament they've played in before, but with a much better group than this. Last year, for the record, okay, yeah, there's no excuse. You want to know who's in last year's? In alphabetical order. Abilene Christian, Florida Gulf Coast, Fordham, Hampton, Kent State, Missouri State, Norfolk State, San Jose State. No, there's no excuse. Absolutely no excuse for playing in this tournament.
The people that are running the Paradise Jam are like, oh my God, we got Kansas State.
They got to be pumped.
How do we get Kansas State in here?
Funny enough, last year's women's bracket featured Arizona State, Cincinnati, Colorado, Kentucky, NC State, and Texas. They had all sorts of big name programs in the women's bracket.
Oh, a really good tournament.
Yeah, geez. Send the mini cats over there. That would be more fitting in a group like that.
All right, Brendan, your first headline.
First headline for me today. I want to touch on something that was public news yesterday. It made the rounds as well on social media yesterday. Joe Burrow was a guest on the Pardon My Take podcast this week and said, when he was asked, hey, if they go to 18 games in the NFL schedule, how should that look? And Joe Burrow came up with a couple of different ideas. He said, one, if you're going to play 18 games, you got to have 2 bye weeks. That is way too much wear and tear on the body. Teams that are banged up because of all those games can get guys back before the season ends. That would be a benefit, which I agree with. If you're going to have an 18-game season, you've got to get a second bye week. He also adds that he thinks the first bye, first half of the season should move around like it does now. He suggested the second bye week be around week 13 for the entire league. And that would then be the week that they host the Pro Bowl, or at least the Pro Bowl festivities. This
like
would
an
also,
all-star break for the NFL.
Essentially so. This would also, of course, move the regular season back multiple weeks, or the end of the season multiple weeks, and you might start it a week earlier, you would end it then a week later, and you would end up with the Super Bowl on President's Day weekend. One note about that really quickly, I hate that. Everyone says, oh, no, we would love to have a day off. The day after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday. Okay, I don't drink, so maybe you guys are just getting absolutely hammered for a game that ends at 8:30, and I'm just not part of that culture. But the fun of the Super Bowl, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, the fun of football and sports is to get to talk about it and to get to indulge in it after and to go to work or to school or whatever the next day and say, wow, wasn't that game crazy? I can't believe Patrick Mahomes did it again. Wow, that scalawag, he's just unbelievable. You don't get any of that if you don't have anything to do on that Monday. And I'm not trying to say we should work more, because who wants to work more? But maybe it's just because I'm a sports talk radio host and I want people to listen to our show. But no one's going to listen on a Monday if we have the day off.
Exactly.
I don't hate a lot of this. I do think, if they do go to 18 games, 2 bye weeks should be like a non-negotiable for the players.
Yeah, absolutely.
You absolutely do. And then to have like an all-star break, like a week off of football, to have like some Pro Bowl type festivities, an all-star weekend type of thing. I think that could be great. I think that could be something that the players would enjoy. I'm not like wild about the idea of moving the Super Bowl and like the required off day after that, like the day off work after that. Yeah, I don't need that. But no, there's some good ideas here. And I don't know what Burrow's status with the players union is. I don't know. I can't imagine he's a union rep for the Bengals or anything, but I would imagine there would be a lot of support for the idea of, hey, if we're going to give you the 18th regular season game, we got to have 2 byes.
Oh, yeah.
Non-negotiable. Have to have 2 bye weeks.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Honestly, they should have had 2 bye weeks. Like for a time, I think it was only like one season, they had 2 bye weeks in the NFL season. It was like 1992 or 93.
Yeah, you're right about that. I don't know what year it was, but
it was
right,
1993. Only 1 year they had 2 byes.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think if you did something I would move it to week 14 personally.
And then you get like a 4-week finishing kick.
What you could do with that, coming up with ideas that aren't being put into practice anytime soon. You know what you could do with that? 3 of those 4 games, they always end the season with a divisional game. Why not play 3 of your divisional games in the last 4 weeks?
Yeah.
And make all those games really count at the end of the year.
You get rivalries. Yeah, you get important division games. No, I agree with that 100%. I like that divisional play wraps up the season and that they've moved more divisional games to the end of the schedule.
That might be the best thing Roger Goodell has done as NFL commissioner. And honestly, like, it's a really good thing.
He hasn't gotten everything wrong.
No, that one's just really good.
All right, Spencer, first headline for you.
Because I'm sorry, Spencer. In baseball, you end up with the Royals playing the Braves at the end of September.
Yeah.
How dumb is that?
Very dumb. Very dumb.
I'm glad that you said that because I agree.
It's so dumb. All right, please.
All right. Well, some college football player that people know, he's not a starter, but he's reversing course and he's going to be in the game. EA Sports College Football 25 will feature Arch Manning, the potential next great Manning in the family. He had originally opted out of the game back in March. It was kind of big at the time. People were like, why would he not want to be in the game?
What was the line his family gave that, he's not going to take any NIL money until he's a starter and he's earned it?
He's focusing on the field. What happens on the field?
I mean, he's a Manning. Come on, we don't need this.
Well, then he posted a video today on Twitter with Uncle Eli. And Eli was calling plays to him. And then he said, you know what? I'm in the game.
That was worth, according to Pete Nakos of On3, that was worth $50,000 to $60,000 to EA Sports. That is what they broke off Arch Manning to promote the game.
That's nuts. Seriously, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That much. What is EA gaining from that?
Having Arch Manning in the game.
Do you think
is that worth it, though?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think there are probably a lot of college athletes that are looking at that and saying, well, I wonder what I could get if I said I was not going to be in the game. Because Arch Manning hasn't played a single college game. Nobody knows if he's going to be any good. But, like, what if I'm the returning Butkus Award winner? Or what if I'm the returning Blitnikoff Award winner? Yeah. What if I'm the returning Heisman winner?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't want to be in the game. Maybe I don't want to be in the game unless you give me $100K to promote the game.
Yeah.
Now, is this going to be is this a yearly thing? Like, can you opt in and opt
out? You
out?
can opt in and opt out.
Yeah.
I think you have the option year over year.
Yeah.
So EA Sports has set a precedent here. They will pay big bucks to the big names. Everybody who's in the game, regardless of your station in college football, receives $600 and a copy of the game, which, like, for the backup offensive lineman for Kennesaw State, that's probably enough. That's probably,
that rules.
Yeah. That's like, hell yeah, man, a free game.
You're already going pro in something other than sports. So yeah, I would call that a win. By the
free
way,
game and money I can go buy food with.
Yeah.
A new controller to play the game. Yeah, use that $600 to go buy a PlayStation 5.
Honestly, yeah, a lot of people are probably.
There are a lot of people who are discovering that it is not coming out on the previous gen systems, and that you have to go get a new Xbox or PlayStation to play this game. Man, I've got other responsibilities in my life right now that people may or may not be aware of. I'm going to have to negotiate with my guy with Ash to maybe we teach you how to learn the baby sling, bud, and sit you up in that while Daddy digs into dynasty mode.
Hey, man, priorities. You got to prioritize.
Trying to learn how to bottle feed with no hands.
His will develop eventually. He's going to learn how to hold it pretty young.
Like it won't be forever.
Yeah. No, it'll be fine. By the way, put a little respect on Arch's name. He did play in the regular season finale for Texas this year. He
That's
went
okay.
2 for 5 for 30 yards and also ran 3 times for 7 yards.
Never started a game then,
No,
I suppose.
But in the spring game, he threw for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Is that more about Arch or is that more about the Texas defense? I elect to
He
choose
completed
about the
first 10
defense so I
passes
can
of the
laugh.
game too.
I mean, I think he's going to be a really good player. He's an elite recruit for a reason. He's also a Manning, and they just win everything.
I'll tell you what. I've been looking at. I've been glancing the internets, trying to see what I could do about getting a new console.
Yeah. Any luck?
The digital only Xbox might be the only way.
All right, but it is an option.
Yeah, as long as it's an option for you.
It could be potentially an option, the cheapest option.
I do have a PS5. If you guys want to go halvesies on a controller, you guys can come over and we can all play.
Perfect.
You're not the only one in this office that said that to me.
No, Bradley J is a
J
big
has
94.5.
yeah.
Constant's like, well, I'll get you a controller if you'll come play. I'm like, I will come play Madden with you anytime.
Anytime.
Hit me up.
Come get this work, Bradley J. He's on vacation. He can't hear us.
No.
Next headline for me on the 580 Sports Talk headlines. A headline from the world of golf. The United States has named their Ryder Cup captain for 2025. In a departure from the recent norm, it is an active player. Keegan Bradley has been named the United States captain for 2025. Now, if anybody watched the Netflix series Full Swing, which is follows golfers, professional golfers for a season, it's like the Hard Knocks, but for golf. There was a subplot last year because 2023 was a Ryder Cup year. And the decision for the final roster spot, the way the selection works is that there are Ryder Cup points. Top 6 points get on the team, and then the captain has the discretion to pick the next 6 guys. Well, last year's captain was down to 2 choices, Keegan Bradley or Justin Thomas. And Justin Thomas had a lousy year last year, but he's a Ryder Cup veteran. Keegan Bradley had a good year last year, and you can see in watching Full Swing that playing in the Ryder Cup meant everything to Keegan Bradley. That is not an exaggeration. Keegan Bradley has had a very nice career. He won a PGA championship back in 2011. He's got 6 career wins on the PGA Tour. He won last year at the Travelers. He's competitive year in, year out. He's made $31 million. He's 27th on the money list this year. He's played in the Ryder Cup 2012, 2014. This means a lot to him. And on the one hand, it's good that the United States has chosen a captain for whom the Ryder Cup is meaningful. Because last year, the whole thing was, this doesn't mean as much to the United States guys as it does to the European guys.
Right.
And it was patently obvious that Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele are just like sleepwalking through this every year. And the European guys want this badly. And so they beat the U.S.'s brains in every time the event is in Europe. So now having Keegan Bradley as a captain, a good thing, theoretically. And I love the Ryder Cup. It's one of my favorite things, one of my favorite like professional sports things. Here's the thing. Keegan Bradley had a press conference today at which he admitted that he didn't know he was even up for consideration to be the captain. They called him yesterday and were like, hey, you want to be the captain? Yeah, sure.
Wow.
And that's how the process goes. If your favorite sports team or concern hired a coach the same way U.S. Ryder Cup hired their captain, you would not feel real great about the future of that sporting concern.
No. No, I would not.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe give the guy a heads up that you're considering him before you hire him. I don't know. I hope it works out. Keegan seems like you watch Full Swing and you come away liking Keegan Bradley. Seems like a genuinely good dude, family man, successful golf career. I hope he crushes it. I hope he probably will win. The United States has had a track record recently of winning all the home events. And next year, I think it's at Bethpage next year.
Bethpage Black
up in New York. I think that's where it is. Let me double check the upcoming location for the Ryder Cup. Yeah, Bethpage Black. Yeah,
there you go.
So I hope it goes well for Keegan, but not great process.
One last headline really quickly before we get to our first commercial break of the hour. If you are excited about the basketball tournament happening later on this month down in Wichita, among other places, of course, if you don't know what that is, it's the $1 million winner-take-all 64-team basketball tournament, mostly comprising alumni teams from various colleges. KU as a team, Mass Street. K-State as a team, Purple Rain. They're going to both be at the Wichita Regional down at Koch Arena. And they're also going to play each other the week before they head to Wichita as part of the Urban Village Outreach organization. On their behalf, the two alumni teams are going to play against each other at the gym at Johnson County Community College on July 17th. You can buy tickets online now at urbanvillageoutreach.org. 6:30 tip-off on July 17th. They've got general admission tickets for as low as $20 right now. That's pretty cool to get to go see those dudes in person. I tell you what, I don't know if timing-wise I can make that work out. I would kill to see Frank Mason in person wearing crimson and blue again. So just a cool little note. If you want to see some of your favorite recent Jayhawks and Wildcats, they'll be playing against each other in Johnson County before the start of the TBT.
We're due for a break in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, choice cuts from Big 12 Media Days Day 1, including Mike Gundy admitting to driving drunk a lot. That's next. .35 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trenton. Gang's all here for this 5 o'clock hour. Day 1 of Big 12 Media Day is just about in the books. We heard earlier today from Brett Yormark, his opening remarks and his Q&A we played for you. We also heard from K-State head football coach Chris Klieman. If you missed any of that, you can rewind on the live video or watch the archive video at our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk, or you can check out the podcast page at 580wibw.com, hour-by-hour breakdowns of the show today. But the clip that's going to get the most attention, or is getting currently the most attention, coming out of Big 12 Media Days today, Mike Gundy speaking with the media in regards to his star running back, the preseason Offensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, Ollie Gordon, who was arrested last week and charged with DUI. Gundy saying today that he does not plan to suspend Ollie Gordon, saying, quote, "I'm going to do what we think is best for Oklahoma State football, and I think it's best for Ollie to play. If there's any punishment, it's making him carry the ball 50 times in the first game." You have something you'd like to add, Brendan?
That is an incredible way to beat around the bush and say, we don't think we can beat South Dakota State without him.
Yeah.
Honestly, they might not beat South Dakota State with him. Man, that is so spineless. So spineless.
That is what Gundy told reporters before he even took the podium. Then after he took the podium, he appeared live on ESPNU and was asked about Ollie Gordon being suspended. Here is the answer that Mike Gundy gave. Again, live TV, hot mic, Mike Gundy.
Ollie here after the week he had last week. 2 questions. What's his status and why did you want to bring him today?
So the college football is changing, we all know. And we can say these guys aren't employees, but they're really employees. These guys get paid a lot of money, which is fine. But there needs to be a side to what they do that they have to be able to, for lack of a better term, face the music and own up to things. And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, I'm going to be real honest with myself first and then make the best decision for what I think is good for Ollie, our university, and our team. And then I start thinking about being a parent. I have a 28, I have a 23, and a 19. And first I thought, okay, so I looked it up on my phone. What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma is 0.08 and Ollie was 0.1. So I looked it up and it was based on body weight, not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life. And I, it's just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky. Ollie made a decision that he wished he could have done better. But when I talked to Ollie, I told him, I said, you're lucky you got out light because you make a lot of money to play football. So back in the day, being able to cover the cost of what he's going to go through would be difficult for a college player. It's not for him.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There's more. I don't think we need to play more.
Dog, what a word.
My first gripe with this is he says the legal limit in Oklahoma is 0.08. I'm pretty sure the national legal limit is.
I think that is the national legal limit.
Well, based on his quote there, I don't think he's ever looked up the legal limit before.
That's true. He's never considered the consequences of his own actions, clearly. I've done that 1,000 times in my life.
So Stuart Mandel of The Athletic has just tweeted moments ago that he followed up with Mike Gundy about this, and Gundy tried to pass it off as saying, like, oh, I just meant bad decision-making. I've done that 1,000 times in my life. That's not at all what you said, dude. You straight up said he had 2 or 3 or 4 beers. I've probably done that 1,000 times.
Now, if there is any one coach in the Big 12, I would believe that about 110% without them saying it on a live microphone, it would be Mike Gundy.
Of course.
Let's be honest. But like, you can't say that out loud on television.
It's just such a.
I'm not suspending Ollie Gordon because there, but for the grace of God, go his coaches.
It's just such a weasel move to say, I'm thinking of what's best for Oklahoma State, and that's not to suspend him. That's to give him 50 carries. We all can see your schedule, brother. That is public information. We know exactly what this plan is.
Absolutely incredible.
I will say one thing that I actually do agree with Gundy on here, and I don't know that he said it in the most eloquent way. The point he makes about, hey, these guys are making a lot of money, and there's responsibility that comes with the freedoms and the rights that college players have now. And I agree with that. How often do we hear, oh, the transfer portal, these guys they don't know what they're doing. They're going to make a big mistake. Or, they're going to have to deal with taxes with NIL. What are they going to do? They can handle themselves. We have decided, thankfully, these are adults. They can make adult decisions.
18-year-olds are adults. Why do we insist on not treating 22-year-old college athletes like adults?
My wife worked in college admissions at a major state university at one point. In fact, had ties at 2 major state universities to working in admissions departments. There are a lot of kids who go to college who are trying to make ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck while also working full-time and going to class full-time. Like, they figure it out. I'm sure anyone else can figure it out. So I do agree with Mike Gundy on that point. Everything after that, though, shut up.
Please.
Please stop talking. He is trying to get fired. I am adamant that he is trying to get fired.
I don't know that he's trying to get fired. I just think he doesn't care anymore. This is a dude that has ran out of F's to give.
That's true.
And is acting like it.
A reporter today said, I have to ask you this question, then asked him about coaching against Deion Sanders. And Gundy went, wow, with that lead up, I thought you were going to ask me about who I'm voting for in November. The reporter then asked him, okay, who are you voting for? And he said, I don't even know the candidates. Then, in the same press conference, when asked about Kyle Whittingham at Utah being 64, Gundy said, quote, no way he's 64. He forgot how old he is. He must have been in the debate last week. So do you know or do you not know, Mike?
Mike Gundy is dying to go on a 20-minute tangent about Sleepy Joe Brandon. He is dying to do it, and he is waiting for someone to open the door for him to do it. He wants to do it so bad.
Just do it, man.
Yeah, dude, do it. It's fine.
He is a more extreme version of what Bob Huggins used to be at Basketball Media Day.
Yes.
Just like, you have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth, and it might be the worst thing you've ever heard.
Before we take a break, Brendan and I gave our Big 12 predictions earlier in the show.
Mine were all correct.
Okay, we'll see. Spencer, we want to give you a chance to get on the record here with your predictions for the Big 12 season to come. So let's run through your predictions first. Who will be the top 2 teams in the regular season?
This is clearly across the board, Utah and K-State.
Do you think both of those teams will make the college football playoff?
I don't think so.
So it will only be the conference champion, and who will that be?
I think it'll be K-State.
You're riding with the Cats. Ride with the Cats. That's 2 of us.
I've been debating that internally for about the last 2 hours.
All right.
It's tough. I think the top of this league is great across the board.
Who is your offensive player of the year choice?
I think this is consensus just based upon what we know here and what we know about Ollie Gordon. I'm going to go with Devin Neal.
Devin Neal is
Good
the
choice.
consensus across the board choice for offensive player of the year here. How about your defensive player of the year?
We talked about this on the show last week or the week before. I think Travis Hunter is a guy that can, although he plays both sides, he's going to make the most impact on the defensive side of the ball.
So you're riding with Brendan's pick as well in the preseason pick, Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Who is your coach of the year pick?
This is a hard one because while it most likely will be one of those 2, I kind of want to go elsewhere between the top 2 coaches, but I'm gonna pick Klieman.
Okay, going with Chris Klieman.
I wanted to go elsewhere, but I know in my head it's the coach of the year's going to be one of the top 2 teams coaches.
Your biggest surprise team this year, team you think will overperform expectations the most?
I think it's going to be West Virginia.
West Virginia.
They were my biggest disappointment pick.
You're riding the Garrett Green hype train.
You're hitting all the Homer stuff today. The Kansas schools and West Virginia. I like that.
Biggest disappointment. Last one before we go. Biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment. I think it'll be Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
My bold prediction is that Hudson Clement will win the Offensive Player of the Year.
And that is
wide receiver from West Virginia. I covered him.
Okay.
He broke out on the scene last year.
Okay.
He's the guy that had the late touchdown against Houston before Houston came back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now it's ringing a bell. All right. Those are Spencer's predictions. 2 of the 3 of us think K-State will win the Big 12 this year. We'll take a quick break. Come back. Talk a little Royals. They don't play tonight. They play 2 tomorrow. We'll tell you about it more next on 580 Sports Talk. Round and third, heading for home on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Again, no Royals baseball tonight. Tonight's game against the Cardinals has been postponed to tomorrow to be part of a split doubleheader between the Royals and the Cardinals. Pre-game coverage at noon for game one. First pitch at 12:45. Then the night game, pre-game at 6. First pitch at 6:45. 580 Sports Talk will fit in nicely between the two Royals games tomorrow. Royals will send Alec Marsh to the mound in the day game. Michael Wacha will go in game 2 tomorrow night. Trent Kraxner, resident Royals superfan, will not be watching because he is the first human being in recorded history to decide, I want to go to Winnipeg for fun.
Yes. Okay.
No, it's actually really cool. You're going, you want to see a Canadian Football League game live and in the flesh.
Yes, the Calgary Stampeders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 7 o'clock start Friday night.
That's sick. Like that honestly is really cool that you've got this wild hair, this thing you want to do, and then you're just going to go do it. Cherish the time in your life when you can do those things.
Trenton, can you throw on my computer real quick while you have a moment? If you could just pop that up for me. Trent is going to get to enjoy the great sport, the greatest version of North American gridiron football, Canadian football. Now, it is unfortunate that Trent is going to have to watch the absolute scoundrels that are the Calgary Stampeders and the diabolical Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But I'm very happy for you. I'm hoping that. Please stop.
What's up with this echo?
I don't know, man.
I don't know why
we go full max headroom every time we play audio from Brendan's computer. We got to get that fixed. But no, Trent is going to do something cool and will not be on the program with us the next 3 days. So that will spare him having to watch the struggling Royals in the I-70 series. It is with deep regret that I inform all of you, Cardinals Devil Magic appears to be back.
Yeah, they're good again.
They're not. That's just it. They have a minus 33 run differential. The Pythag.
But Cardinals good is different than regular good. Like, they do not abide by the laws of physics and the laws of nature.
Like, they are 14th out of 15 National League teams in runs scored. Their pitching staff has a bottom half strikeout total in baseball. They are minus 33 in run differential. And their two most expensive offensive players, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, are starting to look washed, which makes me a little sad in regards to Arenado. But here they are, 48-42 in a wild card spot, 4.5 games out of first place. I don't know how they're doing it other than Cardinals Devil Magic. It's back.
That's what they do.
It's back, and it's deeply annoying that it is in fact back. Sonny Gray and Andre Palante are going to start tomorrow for the Royals. Do you know who has the early game? It was supposed to be Palante and Wacha tonight, and then Marsh and Gray tomorrow night. Do we know in what order Ollie Marmol is going to throw his guys tomorrow? Have we heard?
We can check that information, and we'll see.
It looks like it'll be Palante.
Yeah, Palante first.
Palante first.
And then Sonny Gray. So it'll be Marsh Palante first, and then Wacha Gray second.
So better pitching matchups, frankly, for the Royals. Like Marsh Gray is pretty one-sided. Gray is a bona fide ace and probably should have been an all-star. Could have been an all-star.
He might still be, frankly.
Yeah, we've already had our first removal from the National League all-star roster. Tyler Glasnow hits the injury list today. What a shock. Tyler Glasnow's not going to make it through a full season healthy. Can't believe it.
He is so talented. He's always had all-star stuff. He is just made of glass. Not even glass. He's made of like fiberglass. His
last name is
sucks.
Glass.
In fact,
That's
according to John Denton of MLB.com, who covers the Cardinals, it may not be Gray at all. He might be pushed to Friday to pitch against Cubs. So they're going TBD tomorrow.
You could go pitch against the Cubs right now.
They're going to go their 26th man tomorrow, probably. Whoever they call up from AAA, I would assume, right?
Does Walter Pennington become the 27th man for the Royals?
Can he get
I don't see why not. It'll be an arm.
I think it's an exception, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
27th man for a doubleheader does have that 10-day exception. Yeah. Vance wants us to note that we forgot one stat about the Cardinals. They have the most annoying fans of any sport in the world.
Yes. No argument here.
BFIB, my ASS. Anyway, Royals and Cardinals tomorrow. We'll react to Game 1, preview Game 2 on tomorrow's edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a break now. Come back with a final word after this. Final word time on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, lead us off.
The good far outweighs the bad, I think, with Brett Yormark. I don't agree with everything he says, every plan he comes up with. Some of them are some real harebrained schemes, but I like that he tries to innovate, likes to try to be on the cutting edge, and he's got a lot of confidence in the Big 12 going forward. I'm not going to do weird conference tribalism stuff because, frankly, I think it's dumb, but I spend a lot of time watching this conference, watching the teams in this conference. So if it's going to be a stronger league, I think that's better for everybody around these parts.
Spencer, what do you got?
I've got the fact that I'm kind of disappointed, very disappointed that there's no Royals baseball tonight. I've been really getting into Royals baseball lately. I think it's just because I've been here long enough.
Do you need to see a doctor for that?
So I'm disappointed that tomorrow you will hear me for the full time that we're on, as is the rest of the week.
Yes, we got full bore Spencer here the next couple of days.
Shout out Trenton going to Canada.
Shout out Trent going to Canada. Final word for me today. I'm picking Kansas State to win the Big 12 this year. And I do have questions about them, but I've got questions about every Big 12 contender. I have faith that Kansas State will find answers to the questions that are posed to them. I have faith in their coaching staff. I have tons of faith in their player development. And most importantly of all, I've got faith in Avery Johnson. I really do believe he is going to be that good that soon, and he is going to be one of the most electrifying players in the Big 12 right from the get-go. He didn't get his recruiting ranking by accident. He wasn't a star at the Elite 11 by accident. He wasn't a star of the Pop-Tarts Bowl by accident. He's going to help this team, I believe, win the Big 12 in 2024. That's going to do it for us today. For Brendan, for Spencer, for Trenton, I'm Dan Lucero from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Talk to you tomorrow after the Royals.